Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are very glad to have you with us. Walter Bosley will join us momentarily to start talking about our whistleblowers, whistleblowers worthy of bringing out disclosure. Can we trust the intelligence community with UFOs? We're going to get to that in a little bit of time, but first we have to say hello to each and every one of you, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, Eternity Eternal with a silver, Fast Hemi with the bronze medal tonight, Robert Lamoth, T-Bone, my man, how you guys doing? David Norenberg, thank you for coming on in. Hi there, Lisa Piper. Trucker Andrew is here. Trucker Andrew will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Andrew, I'm just reading your note. You're going to be in Nebraska? Sweet. I can't wait to see you there, brother. Cannot wait. Let's make sure we hang out. Kitty Caddywhack, how you doing? Hillbilly Herb, Necessary Dialogue. Mama Catherine, I love you, my dear. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful day. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Joanne, how are you? And where are we on our roll call here? Let's scroll on down and let's say hello to D. Dorothy Papineau. Welcome to SOR Chat. And I'm new here, but I follow Walter Bosley, and I'm looking forward to this show. I'll make it good for you, D. I'll make it good for you, I promise. All right, little Timmy James. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. And who is next? Ethanol. How you doing, my friend? As we scroll on down in our roll call tonight. And up next, we say hello to Rock and Rory, Operation Shutdown. Good to have you both here. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. And the Doug Shelby will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Thomas Rock, Paramarv, Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because Walter literally said to me before the show, Dave, I need to be lubed up before this show. So I got Mel on the job as we speak. So, if Walter looks a little shiny, that's all due to Mel's lubing. All right, Digger Dog, how you doing? Good to see you. And Jackpot, welcome to SOR Chat. Scrolling on down here, let us say hello next to Adam B. How you doing, my friend? And Millennium, my man. Good to see you. Scrolling on down, who's next on our list here? Body Tech, good morning in London, England, my fellow Commonwealther. Good to see you. And who's next here? In the studio, Al Garay over on Twitch. So pumped up about Walter coming on tonight. He bench pressed 400 pounds 14 times. Guy's jacked for tonight. Xanos, how are you? Sharon Sunshine, nice to see you. Dragonfly, Carol Amerio, nice to have you here. Excuse me. Matthew Gutka, nice to have you here. Ozzy, what's happening, my man? Pam Harris, hello to you. Noble Patrick, thanks for coming on in. I'm Hardcore over on X. Nice to see you. Christine Lynn, thank you for coming on in. And Candy, good to have you here. Valerie Peters, nice to see you again. As we continue on with our roll call here, scrolling on down faster and faster. Dookie Pickles on X. I love your name, man. Love your name. All right. And let's see here. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have Walter Bosley coming on. Can we trust the intelligence community with UFOs? All right. Let's see what's happening here. Apparently, I have a booger that Tim noticed, so I'm going to try and get rid of that as we speak. So thank you, Tim, for pointing out my nose goblins. Appreciate that. All right. Nothing embarrassing about that. Not at all. All right. Thank you. And thanks to everybody else who just kind of left it hanging there. Let's see here. Granola Grin, how are you? And we're caught up. Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And do me a favor, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. British Columbia, to you listening around the world. This, my friend, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair at our headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out, read the news wire. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon Tonight's show is brought to you by helping the world. We got a great show all about the intelligence community and whistleblowers. Walter Bosley is here tonight to discuss everything that goes along with that heavy conversation. And it's kind of like a part one of everything, because tomorrow night, former CIA spook John Ramirez will join us, kind of be around the same type of subject as well. So it'll be a good back-to-back, that is for sure. Well, let's get Walter in here, shall we? Because we got to introduce this great dude. Walter Bosley is an investigator of historical occult mysteries, author of pulp fiction novels, and a screenwriter who has appeared on History Channel's Ancient Aliens. After 19 years in national security, Walter is a licensed private investigator in California, where he also runs his small press publishing company, Lost Continent Library, founded in 2002. Bosley has traveled much of the world, both on and off the job, including trips through Mexico, South America with David Childress. Never comes to Canada, though. He must not like us or something like that. He's an anti-Canadianite. That's what he is. You know, that hurts my feelings. But you know what? I like Walter. He's a great guy. He's a fantastic source of information. WalterBosley.com is his website. Let's ask him right now. Walter, why do you hate Canada? Let's just be honest. Why do you never come out here?
Me? I've been I spoke at an event at Nova Scotia. That's the only time I've been to Canada so far. And you were talking about David. I'm wondering if he's done any trips up in on your side of Canada, because it seems like there would be all sorts of cool stuff that he would be interested in too. I know I got to get up there. We've talked about that in the past.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. It was my friend, you would love my area. You probably would never want to leave. Just don't come during mosquito season.
I will remember that.
Absolutely. How you been doing? It's been a long time since we had a conversation. There's been a lot of UFO news since we last talked. You've been very active on social media about it. You know, I mean, what have you been up to?
Well, I've mostly been, let's see, I've done 3 books in the last 18 months. Short books, but yeah, I've written and released 3 books the last 18 months, couple of years. And I've been building, my website and just kind of upgrading how I do things, how I get myself out there, and just been staying busy. Most recently, I was hired to work on a screenplay adaptation project, which I'm not quite yet at liberty to reveal who that involves, but I hopefully will be soon. And I'm going to be attending Contact in the Desert this summer.
Oh, good.
As
Very good.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. So just been busy with you know books and projects. Done a conference in October called NIMSACon. It was our second NIMSACon, and yeah, so just been staying busy and getting ready to work on some more of my own books here.
Good for you. Good for you. It's nice when we see people like you, good people like you, who are busy, fighting the good fight, trying to get through here. You are somebody who spent almost 2 decades in the intelligence community. You are somebody who knows that field back and forth. How did you go from going from intelligence to chasing down UFO stories and being part of the movement?
Oh, I started my interest in that goes back to childhood, and the man who kind of recruited me into the intelligence work, the national security community, um, he shared those interests, and that was kind of how the bait that he put on the hook to draw me in. So those things are a lifelong interest. But in 2004, I had traveled. 2002, I had gone on 2 Mexico trips with David Childress's group, and then in '03, I went to South America with his group, and in 2004, at an event that David hosts in Kempton, Illinois, every year, one of his conferences, I met Greg Bishop, became friends with Greg, and he kind of started informally inviting me to sit in on his show, Radio Mysterioso, and I just kind of became an unofficial guest host. Started showing up every week and started weighing in on stuff and sharing my own experiences. And I decided I had written fiction and screenplays since high school, but in 2006, I started looking into the weirdness about Disneyland, inspired by a strange experience I had had there in 1981. And so I wrote my first nonfiction book, published in 2000, I think early 2008, late 2007. And, the threads I started pulling with that led to another nonfiction book, and on and so forth. And, the next thing I was kind of one of those people, because I was I was a special agent with the Air Force OSI, you know, that group, which, inspires mixed reactions from people. I'm an Air Force officer, reserve, inactive now. Because of all that, people, started asking me my opinion about these things, and because of things that I learned both on the job and the kind of things in the intelligence world that you learn that you don't exactly learn at the office. It's things that you're kind of pulled aside in informal conversations, and things are shared with you. That's for culpable deniability. So having a lifelong interest in this stuff, and then having a professional exposure to some of it, yeah, I guess I had a perspective that people were interested in, and there you go.
I think you did detailed that absolutely perfectly. I mean, the opinion that you have right
Mhm.
now of where ufology is going, you're not what I would consider a 2017er. You're somebody who's been in this for a while. What's your thoughts on how ufology has evolved with this new wave of research, this new wave of researchers?
Well, setting the new researchers, the new voices aside, you got to start with the community, and you have the community that pre 2017 to varying degrees have been around for a while. Okay. And then starting with the 2017, I believe in the autumn or whatever it was, you have a bunch of new people. And the positive side of that is you got a bunch of new folks interested in the topic. The downside to that is very few of them actually bothered to do any research on what came before, what was in the history of ufology. So they're hearing this stuff, not realizing that it had come and gone before, some of it more than once, not aware that some of the things that were resurrected, like Bob Lazar, which in the past, all sorts of reasons to doubt and question Bob Lazar have been presented and gone over and presented in great detail. But the new generation, Jeremy Corbell, the Carnival Barker, he timed that just right, the revival of Bob Lazar, because he aimed it at people that didn't know any better. And I know there's mixed feelings in response about Lazar. I don't buy his story, but that's the thing with 2017 is it did bring a bunch of new people, but it took advantage. And when I say it, the people behind this resurgence, which was the intelligence community, okay, they've taken advantage, and they still do, of the ignorance of the newbies. And I don't mean ignorance in an insulting way. I mean that in the literal definition, just their lack of knowledge of certain things and concepts, and the idea that there's liars and scammers in this community of ours, and there have been since the 50s. They take advantage of that. And unfortunately, yes, there are some of the new researchers out there that clearly they haven't done their research, because some of the things they'll say and present are just something that, maybe they've read off the internet or they heard someone say in an interview, and they've done no due diligence. And the problem with that is it gets misconceptions out there. And one of the things that's a peeve of mine is, this stuff that becomes conventional wisdom, the stuff that becomes, well, everybody knows Roswell was an ET event. No, we don't know for sure that Roswell was an ET event at all, because that is an example of something that over the years, there's a lot of reason to question the lore and the legend of that. But people are so emotionally tied to this subject that they don't want to hear it. It's become like a religion, what people believe about this. So the problem, the big problem with 2017, like I said, was that whole revolution in ufology was being driven by people in the intelligence community with an agenda, okay, with definitely an organizational and perception management agenda. I used to be in the business of that involved perception management, so I know what it is intimately, and that's exactly what I saw going on.
Give us an example of that perception management, if you don't mind, that maybe myself or our listeners may not be able to comprehend.
Well, for instance, it's really simple. You want people to believe a certain thing. You want them to function and operate under a particular impression. Now, this is something that narcissists, certified clinically defined narcissists, are very good at. It involves gaslighting, right? So in perception management, in what I dealt with, because I was chief of counterespionage operations branch, double agentry. Okay, all my targets were foreign intelligence services, not Americans. But for instance, in double agentry, you give what's called passage material. You send a guy who's pretending to be a spy, and he goes to the Russians or the Chinese. He's got a briefcase full of classified files, which is supposed to be, say, technology of our latest missile or our latest fighter jet, right? Now, what you do is you tweak some of the technicalities so that when they get that, they get it wrong, or they're under the impression that, oh, if we do this, it'll do that, and instead of zigging, it zags. But also, they see the stuff and they go, oh my gosh, the Americans are doing faster than light travel fighter jets that go interdimensional, when that could be a complete lie. That's just what the paper says that we pass to them. So we give them a wrong impression or a wrong perception. Okay. Perception management, it really is those two words together. You're just managing how people see something. Now, if they want the public to stick to their guns and believe that UFOs are extraterrestrial, they will push the ET agenda on many levels, because that's the perception they want you to have, when actually they know that it's our own technology. Okay. Maybe we built a flying saucer kind of thing that can do all this stuff, but they don't want you believing that. They don't want you thinking that. So what do? They play up your belief or suspicion or assumption that it's got to be from another world. Okay, those are examples of perception management.
And I appreciate you sharing that with us as an example there. You are somebody with the unique perspective of being on the other side now, being on this side. You can tell the entire game that is being played right now. Is it a game? Let's
Yeah.
let's break this all down, because normally I like to warm up in the first half hour, but there's just so much to talk about regarding this subject. And that's why I wanted to have you on. Are we watching a game being played right now?
Yes. But let me, before we go further, let me say this so people are clear on this. I personally am convinced and think, I don't like to use the believe word, but I'm convinced and think that there are extraterrestrial civilizations that have technology that can travel through space. I think they have been here throughout human history. I think they still come here. I don't think ETs don't exist. I just don't think that ETs explain but a very small percentage of legitimate UFO reports and sightings. I think 90% of what people are seeing is human technology that is classified and things like that, or just misidentified. So, yes,
So
there
what's
is
the
a
game?
game being played that I think that they're using the fear narrative, the threat narrative, okay? Um, for a couple of reasons. They And both these reasons serve the military industrial complex. They want to keep the budgets up where they're at. They want to keep the money flowing. And at least here in the United States, if you keep people afraid for their security, they'll vote, they'll say, yeah, spend as much money as you need to. So keep people afraid, okay, whether that's of extraterrestrials or a foreign enemy, earthly enemy, but that way you keep the money flowing. Okay. Now, that does not mean that there's not a threat in space, okay, or coming from space. I am not one of these people that I think it's foolish and childish. I've said it here before, to assume that an advanced civilization, just because they've mastered space travel, suddenly they're peaceful. I mean, are you kidding me? Look at our technology. Um, a lot of our technology that we live with every day that's benign really came out of military research, military technological research. Okay, so this business that the more advanced you become technologically, the less bellicose and more peaceful you become, is ridiculous. And I'm not a misanthrope either. This stuff that we're not worthy of the aliens coming here because they're so angelic, we're just terrible, we're terrible. That's nonsense. Okay, that's a bunch of sociological conditioning in our time. So humanity's so bad. No, we're not. We're pretty amazing. We're not perfect. We are flawed, but every other intelligent species and race of beings out there in the cosmos, they're flawed, they're imperfect. Okay, and we are going to encounter a civilization out there that's going to mean us harm. I think it's inevitable. I think we see it in the history, but Um, here's the weird part of the game. Now, I've just told you that I think there's a reason to be concerned about civilizations that would be a threat. So it doesn't mean there's not a threat out there, but the game they play is to exaggerate that threat while being vague about it. Okay? Kind of like after 9/11 with the Patriot Act and all these oversteps of everything, all they had to do was say terrorist threat, and they could get whatever they wanted pushed through, when maybe the terrorist threat wasn't quite up in the red, maybe it was still in the green or something. But what they do is they exaggerate the threat. Okay? So as far as a threat from space, I think they're aware of, very possibly of, a specific threat in space or coming our way. um, and I think they use that. Like terrorists are real, right? We see what they do, we know what they do. Okay. But that doesn't mean that the threat is constantly that high. You see? So it's a real threat is greatly exaggerated for their own agenda. And then the other game is perception management on the enemy. Okay. They want to they know that there's this weird game where if they say, oh gee, that's not our technology, or they don't actually say the words that it's not ours, they're vague about where it might come from, whose it is, or whatever, because they want the Chinese or the Russians to say, oh, that's America's technology, they're not fooling us, they might be covering it up from their own people, but we know where they're going. And they're, that could be one of the games they're playing, is to convince a potential enemy, yeah, this could be ours, you're right, you better watch out because we got these tic tac things that can zip around. It's multi-layered, it's complex, but if you've been in that world, it is actually easier to see. So that's where I'm coming from on this.
Do you get a lot of backlash, as we got about 2 minutes to go before we go to break, from other IC people within the UFO community, that you're kind of going against the grain and going against what they have said or have accomplished?
No, they ignore me. Those folks, they avoid others who aren't in their clique, who aren't in their group. The way they see it is, if they don't acknowledge me, then I don't have credibility in the eyes of their target, and their target is you guys, the public. Okay, so they would just as soon, they want me, I'm sure they would like me to go away saying some of these things, but if they acknowledged me, even to criticize me, that's more acknowledgement than they want to give. So yeah, and it doesn't bother me, I've got plenty of friends.
No, I understand that. Did you ever, in your time with intelligence, did you ever work with anybody who is currently part of the UFO community?
There's one guy who has been mentioned in, was it Mirage Men, or a book on UFOs, that when I was going through agent training, he was the commandant of the agent training school for OSI. And I saw his name mentioned, as somebody who's kind of a background player in what you would call, I don't want to say disclosure, but in other words, I was surprised when I saw his name in there. I kind of smiled to myself and I said, if they only knew that he had an affiliation with OSI, because I take crap from people sometimes having been an OSI agent because they don't understand the first friggin' thing about the OSI and what, the truths about it. They just hear the propaganda. But yeah, so but as far as the other folks, no. But then again, I worked in special access program, and you're kind of sequestered.
Right. Walter, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Hard to believe we're already at break number 1 here on Spaced Out Radio. WalterBosley.com is his website. More about the threat narrative and the narrative to control the UFO story next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, my man, we're clear.
Okay.
That was a fun start.
Yeah, your volume's a little low right now.
Let me get closer.
Oh, there we
How's
go.
that?
There we go. Is mine okay?
Yeah,
Because I just realized my mic is a little bit
you're coming through on my end fine. It's because
Okay, then I'll.
I got a really thick foamy on my microphone.
Oh,
That's
there you
why.
go. Okay.
Like if I go like this or like this or like this, I'll be loud. But this way, I'm not going.
There you go.
Yeah, little trick of radio. I got to talk right into it here.
Thank you, Pyramid 7, for that comment.
Yes. All right. I'm excited to have you on tonight, man.
Oh, hey, I'm glad you asked me on. I've always enjoyed showing up here.
You know what? I could say out of a bunch of the people who've been on here a number of times, you've never said no.
Oh, well, that's what I'm no. That's what I'm no. You know, it's funny. Talk about my career. I was at Wright Pat. I was in my second year, and there, chief of the branch I was chief of, and going into my third year, and my commander. We were preparing for the first base inspection in like 9 years on that base. Plus I was chief of operations, multiple operations, and I was a manager player. And he makes me the OSI commander for the purpose of the exercise. And I got all this stuff on my plate. He keeps piling on me. So I kind of grumbled to one of my senior NCOs working for me. I said, what the heck? There's 3 other junior officers over at the detachment office. Why is he always throwing stuff at me? And my a guy who's a senior master sergeant, he says, well, you want to know the real reason, Mr. B? I'm like, yeah, I do. He goes, because the colonel knows that you never say no. He tells you to do something or asks you to do something and you say, yes, sir. And he says that means a lot to those guys. And I'm like, oh, so you mean I'm doing it right? And he goes, yeah.
Well, that's
I was
good.
a junior officer, so I was still learning, So yeah, and Malia, my girlfriend's always saying that. She goes, you always say yes to people if they ask you. Then I'm like, well, you get more done that way, So,
I hear you, man. I hear you there. We got about 2.5 minutes.
okay.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Busy. 2 weeks ago, I was at UFOCon in San Francisco.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you were traveling and going
And
through
then
that.
after tomorrow night's show, I'll get about 45 minutes sleep before I got to hop in my vehicle and drive down to Vancouver to get to the airport and fly out to Dallas to catch a connector to Nebraska for a Bigfoot conference.
Okay.
And then come home on Sunday, home for 3 days, and then off to Vegas for 5.
Okay, another event?
No, this
you're
is just our
gathering.
radio party.
Yeah, you're gathering, the annual gathering. One of
Yeah.
these years I'm gonna show up there.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. We can
Because I'm
have a
only
hair
about
off.
a 3-hour drive from there. So
Yeah, I'd love that, man. I'd love that. We kind of toned it down a little bit this year. We're not doing the live radio show.
okay.
Just the economy and the unease of everything right now. It's just, traveling for fun right now is not on a lot of people's agendas. You know what I'm saying?
I know. We were pleasantly surprised that we had the number of people we did for our NIMSACon in October. We had 4 times as many show up as the previous year, and we were surprised because of that. And last fall money was even
Yeah.
worse for people than it is now, I think. But God bless them, we have some pretty loyal folks that like what we do. But yeah, you're right. In general, it's just a tough time for events.
Oh, yeah. A big thank you tonight to T-Bone and Cosmic Joe for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support of everybody. It's a good way to support what we do. Don't forget you can get your swag at spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so go check it on out. Here we go. Here we go, the second half hour. Spaced out tonight. That's what we do here on the radio. We give you things to listen to make your mind go, Reminder to all of you that if you've met portions or if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Author, researcher, former IC community member, Walter Bosley is here. His website, walterbosley.com. Walter, thank you so much for being here on this important conversation. Let's get to whistleblowers here.
Sure.
Are they important?
No. I think they're part of the game that's being played on us. I will say this. Disclosure, so to speak, is that much more likely to come through a government whistleblower than it is anybody in our community. But as you see these whistleblowers become embraced by and ingratiated in the community, they become, from my perspective, less of a legitimate whistleblower. And, you know, those of us who worked in federal law enforcement, okay, a real whistleblower blows the darn whistle. And what that means is they tell you, okay, the thing they're not supposed to tell you, and they bring the receipts. That's a real whistleblower. This vague, well, I talked to people who saw this, that, and they said, or the vague, I sit at my kitchen table and I think how scary it's. Stop it. Folks don't buy it. And here's the thing. Since 2017, the Uncle Sam's intelligence community saw how critical mass, majority enough of people in this community embraced the people they threw at you, okay, Elizondo and Mellon and them, that they have decided to throw more, okay? And now all somebody has to do is say, I could use my background, and say, I am now a whistleblower, allow me to, tell you things, and yet not really have to tell you anything, because if I play the game, it comes down to tell the people or imply to the people or insinuate to the people what they want to hear, then they consider me a legitimate whistleblower. But when you tell the folks not what they want to hear, then you're a disinformation agent, or you're a liar, you pretender, that kind of thing. Because really, that's the bottom line, is they've learned to tell the people through the whistleblowers what they want to hear. And the people just eat it up like it's ice cream.
Yeah, but they've been starving. Like, I remember Steve Bassett prior to 2017, Steve Bassett coming out and saying, if we could just get one person from the inside to tell us what it's like, to tell us about the cover up, this story will break right open. We've had a number of them, but they all seem to be pointed in the same direction.
Yep. Obfuscation. Never quite really delivering. what it is again, the game that's being played is to just drag it out, to lure people in and never really reveal anything, so that you get your hooks into the narrative. See, that's all they wanted to do. They wanted to take the spotlight and control the narrative. And people are letting them do that because you're right. People are starving for it. People mean well. Okay. Look, what I'm saying is shame on the game players, shame on these whistleblowers. Okay. The people, you kind of want to walk up to some of them and go, come on, pull your head out. Stop being childish about this. Stop being religious about this. You use your common sense. These guys aren't really telling you anything, and they're taking all the spotlight, from other people who I don't consider myself one of those people in the ufology spotlight. Okay. I'm somebody who's had a UFO experience. I'm somebody that, has been around some certain things where I certainly have a perspective and an opinion about UFOs, a lifelong journey with that. But I don't consider myself one of those ufology stars who's having the spotlight stolen from them. Other people, though, I think so, or even new people that just aren't pushing the narrative the way they want it controlled. For some reason, Uncle Sam, and I think this goes back to 2014, 2015, Uncle Sam decided we need to get control of this narrative. And the breakaway civilization researchers, the legitimate researchers on legitimate breakaway civilization discussion, were getting too close to the truth. So what happened? Knuckleheads like Corey Good, liars, fabricators like Corey Good, were encouraged, were given the spotlight. And look what happened to the breakaway civilization narrative. It became this foolish fantasy nonsense, so that the real, more serious, legitimate breakaway civilization, so to speak, research just kind of died and floundered, because the people, they love their goofy ice cream. And so they did that. They killed breakaway civilization because it was basically getting too close to the classified space technology research. That's what I mean. They were getting too close to that. So once they killed that, then they decided that in 2017 they would make their move. And that's what 2017 was all about. I said it back then. I'll say it now. I think I said it about Elizondo. I think on Friday he retired from the military, and on Monday morning he reported as a contractor. You can absolutely do that. I know that for a fact. And you can be a contractor and legitimately say, I'm not an employee of the U.S. government, because you're not a staff employee. You can be a contractor, an independent contractor, and have that deniability. That's why they hire people under contract so that they have the deniability, and they tell you that it's in your contract. So that's my perception of what was going on there with all of that. And that's what it is the whistleblowers we've been given, particularly these insider whistleblowers. They're either knowingly doing this under the instruction of the intelligence community, or they're bandwagoners who are encouraged. Okay. And the people with the spotlight, okay, are encouraged to shine that spotlight onto the bandwagoners. Okay. Not every guy with a past in the national security community of the United States who is now claiming to be a whistleblower and experiencer, not all of them are still officially in the game, but they're being allowed to have more voice and more light if it serves the mission objective. The mission objective is to control the narrative, thus control the perception of the people.
In your definition, what is the narrative?
The narrative that they want to put out there?
Yes.
Okay, they want people to continue to be convinced that the United States military industrial complex, that our technological base, in no way could ever develop and manufacture anything like the Tic Tac, for example. That there's no way any human technology could ever accomplish that, so it must be from another world. Okay, that's not true. Okay. I'm in the camp, and I'm not the only one. I'm one of the early ones, but there's increasingly more people who agree with me and others on this. But the Tic Tac, that was our technology. Okay. A lot of that stuff you hear that people used to argue, but that's exaggeration based on hearsay. Okay. And, I've talked about this a lot elsewhere, a little bit here too. That's what happens. They let things get exaggerated in the minds of the public. People, say, no, but it did this, it did that. And really, when you go back to the original, source material on it, reports, it actually never did do any of that crazy stuff, or they leave important stuff out. Okay. But that's just one example. We are capable and have developed some pretty amazing technology that, we want to keep it as secret as possible. But see, they even play a tease game with that. Okay. They'll go out there and allow something to be seen, and to our public, they'll say, oh, we don't know what that is. That's not ours. It must be from another world, while at the same time knowing darn well that Russian military intelligence and Chinese military intelligence and others are watching it and knowing that that's probably our technology. Okay. And we get this, we want them to think that it's like we're lying to our people, but you're right, Russia and China, we want you to suspect, we want you to figure out that that's ours because we want you to be intimidated. It's this multiple layered perception management game.
It is wonderful perception. And I see it from a little bit different angle, but I see it from you. From a media standpoint, I see if you control the medium, you control the message.
Mhm.
That's what I've been saying for the last few years on this. You and I have talked about this in the past when it comes to this subject. And I too have my own concerns. And I guess, when it comes to the Tic Tac, I thought, you know what, there's something UFO about this. But then I had a former military member show me a coin. And for people who may not understand what the coins mean, Walter, can you explain what the coins are?
RMOs, round metal objects. Being a military veteran, at least in the US, we don't say the C word, because if you say the C word, everybody that's in the vicinity that has one in their pocket, and a lot of us are carrying one around most times, you have to pull it out, and the last person to put their RMO on the table has to buy the drinks. So we're very careful not to say the C word. But an RMO, it's a testimonial, like if you work for a particular unit, okay? They have these round metal objects that Dave referred to as a coin, and they have things to do with your unit and what your unit did and symbols and things like that. Or if you do a special thing. One time, General Shashkavili, during the late 90s when I was deployed, he had left a uniform on a plane. So me and another guy had to drive at 2 a.m. all the way into Riyadh to bring him his uniform. He gave us one of his coins just for doing that. So you get these RMOs for whatever reason, and they do reflect what the particular unit does.
And the certain missions.
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. The mission.
Well, the reason why I brought that up is I was shown a coin by a veteran who is involved in this subject.
Yeah.
And it was a coin that had the Mad Hatter on it.
Okay.
And the first thing that I was told about this coin was that when it comes to Black Ops, they tend to use a lot of Alice in Wonderland references.
Yeah.
Number two, the Mad Hatter, this logo was apparently created way before the Matrix came out. And the Mad Hatter is holding a red pill in one hand and a blue pill in the other. But here's the interesting part. In the background of the Mad Hatter, it's all black, but there is a white Tic Tac kind of exploding behind it. I don't know if you've ever seen that coin before.
No.
I don't know if you know about it, And the person who showed me this, the veteran who showed me this, said, "Doesn't that look familiar?" And I went, "Oh my God." It was a Tic Tac.
Yeah, and remember, the story we're told is that Fravor and his squadron, they saw this in 2004, so that meant it was being developed, you know, several years back. So I've never seen that particular coin, but there's a lot of. I mean, anyone will tell you that there's a lot of coins. I have 5 or 6 off the top of my head that I can think of. I might even have more. And in the spy world, imagine what symbolism. I've got one coin that has Spy versus Spy from Mad Magazine, the little guy in black and the little guy in white with the pointy nose. And I forget which unit gave me that, but yeah, that's the thing is our military in the U.S. here, because I got to remind myself we have people from all over the world watching, including Canada. They're more than happy for our public to believe that they're so dumb. Our amazing engineers are still so dumb that they couldn't build something that does these things. That there's no way. They're more than happy for people to think, oh, military people are so dumb, they're such robots that they couldn't pull this off or do that. And that's part of the perception you want, hopefully, an enemy to have, so that when it comes time to the battlefield, you can surprise them. And that's what this ultra secret technology is all about. It's the the surprise, the secret weapon. Okay, the thing that if we get into it is so intimidating, so unexpected that it just almost shuts the enemy down. Now, here's a story along those lines. When I became an agent in the mid '90s, one of my supervisors early on in my career, she was the agent who she had she had a higher clearance than I did at the time for certain technology, and she was the agent that would be the OSI agent escorting the ground transport of special aircraft or spacecraft. Like if a payload was going from Edwards to Vandenberg, she would be our OSI agent who would escort that convoy, and they would do these at like 2 o'clock in the morning, that kind of thing. And and she was privy to all sorts of technology. And later, I moved up to that level. But she told me in a side conversation that there was a particular thing in the first Gulf War that was deployed ahead. Now, the stealth fighters were our first aircraft to go in, right? Because they're stealthy and they're the first tip of the spear, right? Well, no, she told me, and remember, this is 95 when she's telling me this, so it's still kind of sensitive back then. She said there was a technology that was deployed before the F-117s. And the way she put it was, it scared the living hell out of the Iraqis. It just unhinged them. She wouldn't tell me what it was. She couldn't. But, so think about that. That's in what, 90, 91? I think 91.
91.
Yeah, that we had some technology the Air Force used that, what the hell was it? And to this day, I still don't know exactly, what it was. You could do a whole show discussing the possibility. But, if we had something like that over, 30 years ago, come on, the Tic Tac, and I'm sorry, half the stuff I hear people say, but the Tic Tac, this guy said it did this. It's like, it's either exaggerations or lies when you take a legitimate, closer look to it. And if Commander Fravor, I respectfully call him Commander because he outranks me. If I were in a bar with him and I saw him, I'd say, Commander, Dave, my friend, David Fravor, I'd say, you know better than that comment you made that if it was ours, I would know about it. That's nonsense. Anybody who's been in that world would tell any pilot, sorry, Mr. Squadron Commander, even though you're a career naval aviator, you don't necessarily know everything that's being developed. Sorry, you don't. They do an amazing job. These are ballsy men and women who are incredible. But quite frankly, they're just not briefed in on everything. And you know what? I think he would just smile and, raise his glass, because I think he's a good officer, good, you know, good soldier, played the game he was supposed to play. I think they were selected for the breaking of that story. Remember, Fravor's squadron and some of those same people that were involved in the Tic Tac thing, they were selected and featured on a reality series about aircraft carriers back in the 2000s.
And they
Okay.
were black aces, were they not?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And the thing is, if you do a good job on the one thing, they'll use you again for that other special thing. Right. So, from my perspective, it doesn't surprise me.
But a lot of people who criticize what you're saying, Walter, will say, this is a guy who's on the outside looking in. He's never been a fighter pilot. He's just making skeptical remarks from his office chair in
Yeah,
his home in California.
of course. Yeah. Well, I was a special agent with the OSI. I was in counterintelligence and counterespionage, program protection. Program protection means that you're briefed to a pretty high level, and you're briefing fighter pilots and other pilots on certain things. And when you're doing that, you have to know, you have to be briefed up to the level of what they're flying and what they might be dealing with. Okay, and the way they brief you, you're sitting there, and they brief you in this way where to get your levels, what they call tickets, that's your levels beyond TS, because I was TS, SCI, and then we were discouraged to say SAP, SAP, or Special Access Program until Hillary Clinton ran her mouth and said that publicly, prominently, and then suddenly you can say Special Access Program. So I was in that for a while. You don't have to have been a fighter pilot to know about certain technologies and how the technologies that can be developed. I mean, that's absurd. That's like saying the people that, were involved with the engineering companies that did this, well, they're not the fighter pilots, so they wouldn't know. What that does is, what I would say respectfully and with a smile, is anybody who would say that, they're clearly showing their lack of experience or ignorance with how that world works.
Right.
So,
Right.
and
I get that.
like I said about Fravors, I would say that to him with a smile, because I think he totally is aware of what I'm saying, and I think they were, instructed, okay, here's what you're going to do. Not that they didn't. Here's the thing. Yes, they experienced that while they were flying around unarmed on a proficiency sortie kind of thing out there miles off the coast of California, right in the heart of the zone where they test ultra secret stuff. Okay. And of course, I think they encountered it, because I think the Tic Tac, they wanted to get an honest, genuine response from our fighter pilots. So what they do is they get them on an unarmed sortie out there, and then they shoot that thing off and see how they react. And then later they're brought in and briefed, and asked, well, what do you think? Blah, 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 blah. And whether they tell them or not that that's what it is, it depends on the individual situation, scenario. But there's so many reasons, and it would take an hour to go into. There's so many reasons to think that that was our technology, and the stuff was exaggerated, and they knew exactly what they were doing when that happened. That was not a spontaneous otherworldly UFO event.
It is quite food for thought. And, we only got about 35, 40 seconds before we have to go to break here. But my thoughts on it, are I want to know where you stand on the current whistleblowers. Where do you stand on the projection of this story? I've talked to a lot of YouTubers and podcasters over the last few weeks who are gravely concerned that the story is being eaten up by a certain amount of individuals, and the rest are being thrown in the trash. And as a media guy, I think that is a travesty that they are controlling the message so hard. And I don't think a lot of people understand the dangers of that when something like that happens. So, Walter, I'm going to get your opinion when we come back. WalterBosley.com is the website. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Scott.
That was your dinner.
All right, Walter, we are clear. We got about 5 minutes 45 seconds.
Okay.
I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm just going to step away for a minute.
Okay.
Be right back, everybody. right.
Hmm?
You know, it's that time of year again when I go outside. I usually go outside because there's been some solar flares recently, so I go look to see if the
Oh,
northern lights are out.
cool.
But it's that time of year again where I have to watch out for bears.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I have, thank God, knock on wood, that it hasn't happened yet. But I know one of these days I'm going to walk outside and there's going to be a bear just standing there, and I'm going to be like, oh God, right?
And then you're going to have to decide what
Oh,
do you
they're
do?
more scared. The black bears are more scared of us than we are of them,
Yeah.
you know, which is kind of cool, but still freaky at the same time, you know.
Now, do the bigger bears roam around in your neck of the woods, or?
No, the grizzlies are about 20 miles away.
Okay.
Yeah. Big thank you tonight to T-Bone and Cosmic Joe for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love. Cool Arrow, how you doing? Good to see you. And thank you again, T-Bone, for another super chat. Here we go. Go with hour number 2 of Space Talk Radio tonight. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. Well, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Warrico. Warrico is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to our guest from WalterBosley.com. We have Walter Bosley, author, researcher, former intelligence community member, who is really breaking down what we are talking about with the intelligence community and UFOs, along with whistleblowers. Now, Walter is a critic of all of this that is going on, and we love to give a secondary voice on this because there are two sides to every story. And in real journalism, you have to present both sides. So that's what we are doing. Walter, thank you for coming on in.
Hey, sure. I always enjoy talking with you and your audience. And again, I reemphasize that I'm not a debunker of UFOs. I absolutely accept that ETs exist, and I think they've been coming here, and they still do. So I just want to make sure that's out there, and there's some perspective on what I'm saying.
Well, we appreciate you doing that, my friend, and we appreciate the fact that you are so intimate with this subject to break it on down for us. Because a lot of times, I think, as public, where we're not on the inside or understand how the inside works, to us, it seems like we're getting all of this information, and I'll give you an example. About a week and a half ago, I put out a tweet and on Facebook, I put it out there. I'm like, UFO people, that Skywatcher and Jake Barber aren't the ones who came up with summoning. People have been doing this for decades. It's just now it's become popular, and I'm paraphrasing what I said here. And I'll be honest with you, Jake Barber responded and he goes, "You're right. It's been going on a long time." But to the new people that are out there, this is something new and amazing that is going on, that I can summon UFOs with my brain. Now, I realize for a lot of people, they don't believe that. I don't know where you stand on that. I am a believer that you can, because I've done it myself. Way before this was ever a thing, I've done it myself.
Okay.
I used to, Walter, just to kind of give you a little synopsis, I used to, when I lived in my old house before I even started this show, I used to have people over and say, why don't you come on over? We'll sit on the patio. We'll have a beer. We'll have a little fire in my propane fireplace, and we'll watch the UFOs fly over. And we had everything from orbs to black triangles flying on over. It was insane. Don't know how we did it, but we were doing it.
Well, I am not a disbeliever in people summoning things. Remember, I just question these government whistleblowers they're throwing at us. But I mean, you know me, and people look at the books that I've written and the things that I think are real. I'm by no means some debunking materialist. I mean, I've embraced some pretty wild, paranormal, concepts. What I would say is, I think it's less likely that people are summoning extraterrestrials than they're summoning something else. For instance, I think there's, a group of a race of beings that share this world with us that aren't exactly us. And I think they might account for a portion of UFO experiences, so to speak. And I would lean more, when I hear about the summoning stories, I would lean more to something like that, be it cryptoterrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, or interdimensionals, as I call them, or some other type of intelligent presence or phenomenon. That's where my thoughts go when you talk about summoning. And even though, because you're there now, see, there you're getting into a world of things where they will show you what you want to see. They're capable. Within the context of what we're talking about here, they are known to be capable of appearing how you want them to appear. And if a black triangle represents to the summoner, what they suppose that they're going to see if they're summoning ETs or secret government technology, then this intelligence is going to say, okay, let's look like that. Let's show them that. Now, I'm not saying absolutely I know for certain that you're not summoning an extraterrestrial, okay, and that you're not being looked at or listened to or mind read by some military government agency, and that it's absolutely not, what it appears to be. But what I'm saying is, I personally have to, just because of my experiences, I have to consider who else could this be?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair assessment of everything. The public, though, looks at these people, and it started with Lou Elizondo. And I remember I asked Lou about this when I interviewed him a few years ago. I said, "Do you like being a deity in this field?" And he said he didn't like it. He said that it was very uncomfortable. Now, I don't know how he feels now about that, but many in the UFO community tend to put these people on pedestals that they're never going to be able to live up to their expectations. And I think a lot of times we have incredibly high expectations for these people who can only say so much due to their NDAs or due to their positioning. How do you feel about that?
Depending upon the individual, I think some people are probably sincere about that position. Others would be, you know, feigning humility. Oh, I don't want to be that. Oh, please don't think of me as anything special. That kind of thing. It depends on the individual. I don't know Lou Elizondo personally. I just don't buy what he's selling personally. But there's things that I think are legit, or someone say, well, you buy this over here, why don't you buy that? And that's a fair point, but it's still not going to change my personal ethic that I take things on an individual basis, and that includes people and their stories. I just For me, Lou is just too much a part of that 2017 charade that they've pushed on this community for narrative control. Same with Mellon, same with Grush. I think Grush was used. I don't think Lou was used. I think Grush was used.
How?
I think he was a guy who was genuinely interested in this stuff, and when he was on the job and asking about it, somewhere along the way, someone thought, when I say someone, I mean someone in the perception management business, within their intelligence duties, that decided this guy could be useful. Let's get him. He would be an unwitting source, unwitting in how he was being used. Encouraged, hey, go out there. We're going to get you in front of Congress, and we want you to, testify, knowing full well that nothing he said in front of Congress that you could see on TV, and then later, as attested by the congressmen who were in the room with him when it was behind closed doors, And I think the guy was likely being sincere, but it served its little niche of that part of perception management. Remember, while at one time they're building up a particular narrative, at the same time they'll tear that same narrative down. Because what's the goal here? The goal is to keep you, the public, not quite certain. The goal is to keep the public at odds with each other, because they know there's going to be this group over here that, I'm not buying this. Okay. So they play to that group, because this group over here who's buying it is going to be mad at the other group. And just like, I encounter when I come on shows and talk about this, it's to keep us at each other instead of paying close attention to what they're saying and doing. And here's the thing. If you see something on display in front of you, I don't care how amazing it is, turn around and look behind you, because that might either reveal if it's fake or if it's a game, who's doing it, who's projecting it, or it might be distracting you from what's really going on. Now I'm speaking, figuratively here, but just keep that kind of thing in mind. Always, unfortunately, you always have to question what's being presented to you.
Now, I am hearing, and this is a little bit breaking news that I found out earlier before the show. I am hearing that as early as this weekend, we will have another whistleblower come forward. And I think the timing is impeccable with what's happening in Washington, D.C. starting next week. Mm-hmm. And then the May 12th week where they're going to have open hearings on this subject. Yeah. But I'm hearing that there is going to be a podcast with this person coming out. I don't know the podcast just yet, but I'm very curious. In your opinion, what would make a good whistleblower? What would a whistleblower have to do?
The whistleblower has to state very clearly the actual thing that they're not supposed to be telling, regardless of any perceived or expected danger to their person, and they bring receipts. They bring the evidence, the so-called proof with them. Okay, this vague, well, I can only say so much because of my. Okay, there's your first flag that's a BS artist. Okay, there's your first flag that you're being gamed. A real whistleblower blows the whistle in a way that it cannot be denied. It really breaks the flood. It changes the world. Okay, that's what a real whistleblower is going to do. Okay, and another thing I hate to tell people, disclosure is not going to come through anybody in this community. I know there's people in this community who they're the disclosure guy, or they're that disclosure guy, or this disclosure. I'm sorry, but I personally think, and I'd rather see it this way too, but I personally think that when we get disclosure, it's the aliens themselves that are just going to say, we're tired of the nonsense. Here we are. This is us. We're in your skies. You don't have to worry about your governments telling you the truth, because here we are now. I think, and they might even be the reason that the governments aren't disclosing it, because they've said, you know about us, you will not reveal us. That's a possibility.
Is the cover up, to follow up on that, is it because of the aliens, Or is it because of the technology that we don't want to share yet?
Yes, to both. Part of it's the aliens. Um, Part of it is a lot of it's the technology. Yeah, it's this yo-yo game, the back and forth game they play with your perception of what the truth is. Right now, they're playing the game of wanting you to believe that these people that come out and tell half a story or don't really share anything, that they're really whistleblowing. No, we have not had a real whistleblower yet. Period.
Yeah, but we're not going to get that proof. We're not going to, outside of the grainy videos that we're going to get that, pretty much look like a 1950s television show. We're
You're
not
not
going
going
to
to get
get
that.
that.
You're not going to get that from the fake ones. You're not going to get that from the pretenders and the liars that we've repeatedly have. What I'm saying is, you asked me what's a true whistleblower going to look like? I told you, they're going to come out and they're going to say that thing, whether they fear it's going to get them in prison or killed or not. They're going to say the thing that then cannot be denied, and they're going to have incontrovertible proof, evidence, whatever that is. And it ain't going to be grainy photos. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it'll be the true whistleblower that changes everything, because that's what a real whistleblower is and does.
So
They're
if I
using
get
this title willy-nilly, and it's not accurate.
if I get this correct on what you're saying,
Huh?
we're going to need somebody to break an NDA to come on out and
Yes.
say, guys, this is a map of where the installation is, where they're hiding UFOs. I'm using this as an example,
Sure.
where they're hiding UFOs, or this is the map to where they've buried alien bodies, something along those lines that has a chain of command with paperwork.
Yes.
Because, yeah,
Yeah. It's going to be somebody who says, screw my NDA. I'm tired of this. And they risk the 50 years in jail, $500,000 fine, whatever that is. In the U.S. Yeah, that's what a real whistleblower does. That's what a real whistleblower is going to do if we see a real whistleblower. I personally think there's going to be slow disclosure, and I think they've already started it, of course. I think they're going to admit to, a long time ago there had been intelligent life on Mars, before they admit to relics that have been found on the moon, for example. They're gonna, if they have their way, the real disclosure is going to happen in a piecemeal, slow thing, for whatever their reasons. But a real whistleblower, if that were to happen, yeah, it's somebody that's just throw that caution to the wind. They're going to break their NDAs. They're not going to care. They're going to come forth with the real facts and truth, and they're going to be able to prove it.
okay. So, in your opinion, then, who is a real whistleblower? It doesn't have to be UFO. Would you consider Edward Snowden a real whistleblower?
Snowden is, yeah, the closest to a real whistleblower, that we've seen. One of the closest. But you might say that, what's his name, who's in trouble in England, McKinnon or whatever, for the stuff that he revealed that he found when hacking into U.S. What space program military computers. But yes, Snowden is more of a whistleblower than anybody we've seen in the UFO community, who's claiming to be a whistleblower these days. Some
Having
of
an
them, some of
experience,
what's that?
having an experience is not a whistleblower.
No, no, that's the ones that are. Remember, we have people that like to pretend and they want to be part of the fun, but the ones that are telling the truth, those are truth tellers. Those are people that are sharing their real experiences. But that's not a whistleblower, okay? Because they're not under any they were not under any legal or organizational, institutional order to not tell about that. So that's not whistleblowing. Whistleblowing is, you know, just that, blowing the whistle on something that, is going on or is true that's being kept from the people that you think the people should know, and you don't care what you've signed, you reveal it. So no, the storytellers about people that, I mean, I've had my one legitimate UFO sighting experience over my house in 2014, and as I said earlier, I've been into this stuff since I was a kid, and I never had that kind of experience just until 2014, and it was like, whoa. Me who's into this stuff and has written about weird stuff, I got to tell you, I mean, it was like me and the other witness were like, whoa, would you effing look at that? What is it? And I had enough presence of mind to go get my camera, and it still didn't show up the way it looked like in our eyes. It's a whole weird experience. And I still don't think it was anything to do with extraterrestrials. It had to do with other things. That's a whole other discussion and show. I did a presentation at a conference, which now is a video on my channel if anyone cares to watch it. But those are telling personal experiences, and that's not. And me talking about that is not whistleblowing, because I didn't see that while on duty in the Air Force at a base, and ordered not to share that. That's a personal experience. So I'm not a whistleblower. Nobody who tells a personal experience under those circumstances is a whistleblower.
Kim is asking in our chat room, does a whistleblower have to produce evidence?
Yes, they either have to provide that evidence themselves, and that's preferred, or they have to provide the instructions on how to go right to that evidence. In other words, if you're a whistleblower, there's some type of major fraud going on in a government agency, and the federal agent investigating it, takes your testimony that you're whistleblowing on. And if you don't have it yourself, which you prefer them to have it, and then it can be confirmed and verified afterwards. But if they literally can't give it to you, they have to be able to say, go to this office, it's in that room, it's in that safe, you'll find it, there. So they do have to, it's got to lead directly to the incontrovertible evidence.
That makes sense. That makes great sense. Walter Bosley is our guest tonight. We got 2 minutes before we go to break. Walter, in the next half hour, I want to get to you on the information that is coming out, how there seems to be these cliques, these groups forming where they're really the only ones getting the information from their sources on the inside here. Are you noticing these cliques or these formations of groups where they're holding the information close to their chests?
You mean people that
On a
were
media standpoint?
Oh, you're just saying media cliques where they're getting source information and they're not sharing it?
Yeah.
That's gone on so much and so long that, it's like my attitude towards them is put up or shut up, because I'm going to ignore you until you do. But yeah, I mean, there's always cliques. There's always cliques. There always have been. That's unfortunately a downside to human nature. And what I do is I question their legitimacy as far as, their quest. They want to bring the truth, but they want to feel special and important, and or maybe they don't really have the goods, so that's why they say, oh, well, I can't talk about it now. It's because they don't really have a smoking gun. There's that game too. And unfortunately, yeah, that's gone on so much, and that's so typical that, like I say, put up or shut up. I don't want to hear it.
No, I get that, and I can appreciate that. I guess where I'm going with that is I would love to get your opinion, and we'll have to take it the next half hour. I'd love to get your opinion on how these media formations, especially on YouTube channels, are really starting to, take off, that there seems to be a real presentation to screw ufology. Let's go to the YouTube influencers to try and get the story out. We'll get your opinion when we return.
I have to go take a pill, Dave. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
And that's why I always need to mute. How we all doing? We having fun? That was a fast half hour. Hello, Amanda.
So noisy. You forget about
I what?
your chair is so noisy.
Yeah, I know. Beard drip. What is beard drip?
Beard drip.
Yeah, I
Where
don't
do you
know.
see beard drip?
Somebody said I'm trying to. My beard drip can't compete with your amazing.
It's because I finally got a dude in my town who can sculpt beards.
There you go.
Ever Josh, welcome to SOR chat. Moody Mongol, you sick bastard, how you doing? Jeremy Jones, thanks for coming on in. Jeremy Jones, yes, I would like to try. Hello, Kim B. AJ, welcome to SOR chat. It's good conversation tonight, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I like I like to clarify that because sometimes you get in these conversations and people think you're just a stick in the mud, and I'm like, au contraire. I've had enough weird stuff happen to me that I'm right there with all you folks. And I'll say this later when we're back on air, but I would much rather hear an individual's story than any more of these fake whistleblowers, because
I
I just
love the individual story, man.
yeah, because that you're more likely to get an honest story. That person's going to be, hey, this thing happened to me, I saw this. And sure, they might not be interpreting it the right way, but you know what, it's not some canned narrative that's being used to manage your perception. It's somebody
Right?
sharing a real experience, and I would rather hear that than any more of these so-called whistleblowers.
I had the opportunity to meet Jason Sands a couple weeks ago
Mhm.
at UFOCon, and I got to meet his mother and his sister and his brother that were there. And I'll tell you, the emotion that he showed after, because that was his first public presentation,
Mhm.
the emotion that he showed afterwards, just in regards to everything, it made him very believable, man.
Okay, I'll
Very
check them out.
believable.
I think
Yeah,
I've heard the name a couple of times, but I
a
don't
lot of
know.
people are busting his chops because of where his incident happened, which was on a training mission at Area 51.
Okay, it doesn't mean it wasn't an impactful experience.
Yeah.
Or
Like I'm a firm believer, Walter, that you can, when you meet the person face to face, you
uh-huh.
can get a real feel of everything rather than hear them on the radio or on X Spaces or in print where you're just, I think we have too many armchair quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think like hearing him speak and the emotion in his voice, you could tell he wasn't acting. He had something happen, right? I'm going to get you to hold on right there, Walter. We're coming back in about 22 seconds. Thank you to T-Bone ×2 tonight, Cosmic Joe, Mel WD40, and Richard for the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. And we're going to come back here in about, let's say 6 seconds. Hold tight. Second half hour, Spaced Out Radio tonight. Hey, I want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, Walter Bosley, we have until the top of the hour. WalterBosley.com is his website. So, Walter, thank you very much. One of the things that I wanted to chat with you before we get to some audience questions is about the story narrative. We seem to have these cliques, these factions that are vying for the story, whether it's the Jeremy Corbell faction, whether it's the Jesse Michaels faction, whether it's the Lou Elizondo faction. They all seem to be fighting for these stories that are out there and trying to provide the information and the narrative that goes along. You are somebody who views this from the outside. How do you feel about these factions taking over the press, especially getting YouTube influencers who are usually about magic and Orbeez and practical jokes now getting the UFO story?
Well, a lot of these influencers that I see, they a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them don't know the history of ufology, so they're not aware of the grift, okay, the grift cycle and all the grifters that have come before. So they're easier to fool, they're easier to lead astray. For instance, I like Redacted, the show Redacted, Clayton and Natalie Morris, but sometimes I just pull my hair out when I see the things that Clayton will talk about seriously. I just want to say, Clayton, a bunch of us have known for years that that's nonsense, but he doesn't know what we know. I've seen, some of these big name podcasts, they just don't know the history of this. So they're easier targets of these people. Okay. That's one thing. Then you have the people who they just want to be UFO famous. Okay. And they want that spotlight. They want center stage. So they're jockeying for position. And so what they do is they latch on to certain influencers so that they get the attention and others get shoved out. Okay. That's a part of the game. And then of course you have the ones we talked about who are sent to control the narrative, and they go in and they want to control the influencers, because again, the ignorance of the subject that some of these influencers have just makes it easier to control the narrative and to get them to, they'll think you're the guy, you're the one that knows, and that turns people on. They like, they like feeling like they're in with the guy who knows. And so it's a multiple objective little social game that they're playing, and a lot of it is just to you become UFO famous, and you don't want that to end after 15 minutes. That's what some of these people are doing.
What's your thoughts on somebody like Jesse Michaels then, who has taken a lot of criticism, a lot from this show and others, where people are saying he's tied to Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel is really trying to run the entire UFO subject, from his funding of Enigma Labs to to Jesse Michaels working for him, making his career off of that. And Michaels went on a podcast recently basically saying that Peter Thiel has nothing to do with ufology, doesn't want to invest in it, which we already know he invested in Enigma Labs. And I'm saying this as I'm paraphrasing, but Jesse Michaels says, I'm just a podcaster who asked these people for an interview and they said yes. There's been people trying for 10, 20 years to try and get Hal Puthoff or Jim Semivan or many of these people on their shows and have never got them after years of inquiry. And then all of a sudden, a no-name YouTuber who didn't have 30,000 subscribers at that point comes out of nowhere and is getting all of these high-profile guests.
Yep.
If anybody is buying that, I have a bridge to sell you in the middle of a desert.
Exactly. Imagine that. And that's part of what I'm talking about. It's because these folks, God bless them, they might know something about, varying degrees of ufology history, but there's just enough that they don't know that they're more easily led astray or duped, more controlled. And the reason, Hal Puthoff and some of these other guys won't go on shows that have been at them for years is because they know they're going to get hard questions. They know they're going to get questions that they don't want to answer, and threads pulled that they don't want to respond to. So of course the newbies are going to be the softball people. Okay, because they're newbies, they're trying to establish themselves. They like getting these guests, so they don't want to burn any bridges. So that's what they do. It's so that they can get, softball questions.
Okay, so when all of a sudden you see Skywatcher come out with their video, and all of a sudden in the background you see Logan Paul, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, to me, I don't know why. I mean, Logan Paul doesn't have credibility for me with anything to do with, UFOs and UFO reporting. And Skywatcher, I may not know them by name. But see, here's the thing about ufology, and I think you've seen this too, Dave. I'm gray-beard enough, been around enough, okay, that after a while, you learn to not pay. I'm saying the rhetorical you, not you, because you're a host of a show that focuses on this. So you're more, tuned into this stuff. But someone like me, you reach a point where you quit keeping up with everybody that comes down the pike and watching everything, because you know what? You've seen it. You've been there. You've seen it before. And when somebody does say, hey, have you checked out this guy? 99% of the time you say, no, I've never heard of him. You go check him out, and guess what you find? It's the same old, same old. So you begin to go, okay, I'm kind of done with this brand of sensationalism, and that's what it is sensationalism in ufology. So you kind of lose interest in that aspect of the community. I think, at least I do. So when I'm an honest broker. If you mention somebody's name and I don't know who they are, I'm going to tell you that live on your show. I'm not going to play this game that others play. Oh yeah, him, yeah. And no, I'm going to be honest, and that's why I may not know who every person is, or whatever the latest thing is because most of the time it's a been there, done that thing before, and that's damaging to ufology, right? For someone like me to reach that point with a certain element of the community, what does that say? That's saying that I'm jaded to some point, right? That I'm kind of like, well, there's going to be nothing there. I'm much more interested in a different element of the community, if that makes any sense.
I think the excuse that many use for people such as you or people such as me, when I've brought it to the attention, is people use the excuses. You're jealous that you're not getting the interviews. You're jealous that you're not on the inside. You're jealous and you're whining and you're complaining because somebody else has broken a story or got that person to speak on the record. And it isn't that at all.
No.
from a media standpoint,
Right.
hey man, there are times where I've broken stories that nobody else had. And I'm grateful for that. And I have no
Yeah.
problem with people breaking stories, or say you get a guest who does a one-off.
Well,
But when go ahead.
no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
But my point, I guess, that I'm getting at is, from a journalistic standpoint, when you see only certain people getting access to certain people, it's more than just a breaking story. It's about control. And that they've already made up their mind in their little factions and cliques that they are the ones who are going to be in control and nobody else is going to get it. And in fact, in that podcast, Jesse Michaels stated that he feels that there are lesser knowns and not enough people doing actual journalism to be able to get the story.
Right. It you talk about people say, oh, you're just jealous that you're not getting the attention. If I were a UFO guy, where if ufology was my main thing I was trying to get the attention on, most of my books would be about UFOs. Okay. I have 2 books in which I talk about UFOs to a limited extent inside a book of about more things than just UFOs. None of my books are UFO books. So that's kind of odd for me to be a jealous guy when clearly, as a writer and researcher, and what I really go after, if none of that, or 99% of that is nothing to do with UFOs. I'm just somebody who finally saw one and has had a lifelong interest in it. So, that's my stake. Is I want the truth as much, as anyone else. And all I'm seeing is the spotlight given to people who don't have the truth. Okay. Or are not sharing whatever truth they might actually have. And it's for whatever reason. We've talked about several, tonight.
Let's get to some audience questions here, because
Sure.
they are building up. Kim wants to know, what is your opinion of Rick Doty these days?
I think Rick Doty, I've never had, I've had one conversation with the man. By the time I got into OSI, I heard about him in 94, late 94, as a cautionary tale, because I was going to work on this development counterintelligence thing that was on the fringes of UFO land. And they liked what I was doing because it had to do with potential foreign agents that I was looking for. But they told me, they go, look, there was this guy, Rick Doty. He really pissed off headquarters. He embarrassed OSI. Do not make the mistakes he made if you go anywhere near UFO land. I'm like, okay. And that was the first time I ever heard of the guy. And then I learned more about him. And then, of course, when I got to know Greg Bishop, I read his book and learned all about the Benowitz case. I think Rick Doty is somebody who, we had the same specialty. And when he was involved with Benowitz, he was in that specialty that I was in. And, you control your operation to an extent, but there's still certain marching orders you take from people above you at headquarters. And my bottom line on that is Doty, he might not have done everything according to the way people thought he should have. But here's the thing, until you read the case file, you don't know the full story. It is my personal assessment as a former OSI agent that the villain in the Benowitz story was the NSA. Read Greg Bishop's book again, and the NSA were the bad guys that did what happened to Benowitz. But that aside, I think Rick Doty is somebody who likes being UFO famous, and he's having a good time in his retirement, because all the, remember when he was a big villain, boo hiss, everybody hated him, and now some of the same people, they celebrate him, and he's probably getting a kick out of that. But that's what I think of Rick. He's either still on the job as a contractor, seeding certain things in the narrative, or he's just having fun, at the expense of the ufology community.
Nothing wrong with fun, that's for sure. All right, let's go to the Desolate one. Do you feel they were drones, or our hidden technologies are actually UFOs trying to make contact in New Jersey?
Oh, I think that was very earthly technology. Um, they weren't otherworldly. Number one, I think they clearly were drones. Somebody's hidden technology, meaning either the governments or private industry. Remember, folks, private industry is not under any requirement. It's called proprietary information and property. They're not under any requirement to reveal what they have to the public unless the authorities deem that it's a threat to the public. Okay, so they don't have to tell us, and that's how I think Uncle Sam long ago learned to hide what they did know about crash saucers and things like that. Hand the custodianship off to a private corporation. Now, that private corporation could have been created by the government for that purpose, but they are a private corporation, and so the government says we don't have any crash saucers, and they're telling the truth because they don't. It's proprietary of a private entity. So I think that's what is involved with the drones there. And I don't know why they haven't really fully revealed exactly what they claim was going on, but it's nothing otherworldly from my perspective.
No, and I would agree with you on that as well. Let's go over to Paramarv here, who is asking, what is your opinion on the secret space program and super soldiers that have been coming out the last couple of years? They're sharing interesting information.
It's BS, period. That's my opinion. I've met some of these guys. I've talked with them. I've looked at their stuff. It's BS. It sadly is a product of the Corey Good BS. And that's where I stand on that.
Just not a fan, eh?
I'm not a believer in it. I'm not convinced. I mean, some of these people, their stuff is so comical and so obviously fantasy that it amazes me that anybody considers it even for 5 minutes. But no, I don't buy this SSP stuff.
All right, let's go to another question here. Let's go back to Kim. Do you believe there is a cover-up going on about the UFO subject?
Yeah, of course. I think it's been going on for decades, for maybe even a century. Ooh, over a century. Yeah, I think there's a cover-up. Absolutely.
Do you think that ETs have given a timeline and that's the reason why 2017 happened?
I don't think
here's my thing.
doubt that 2017 had anything to do with anything ET unless by some slim chance they're playing a perception game with a known threat from outer space. That would be but as a timeline, the ET's telling us, okay, do this thing in 2017 with these people. No. I don't think that was all perception management, narrative control. Motivated and created and originated from and by the government, U.S. government.
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I'm still quite confused about that. I really am. And it comes down to my aspect that I was saying a few years ago. I started it where it was the why now question. There was no need for any of this to come out, Walter. There was no need for the whistleblowers. There was no need for TTSA. There was no need for any of the special groups.
Except for the fact that Donald Trump got elected the first time in 2016. So by the time we're going into 2017, they're possibly ginning up the money creation machine that they have to do with the public because, the new Space Force was coming. And we've got to get people excited and ginned up for when we start wanting to spend money on that. And I could see Space Force being part of the narrative of, there's a threat in space, but don't worry, America and the world, the United States Space Force is being created to face that. So when you look at the bigger context of what was going on, I I I can see pretty easily where it was part of a military industrial complex, bigger picture narrative.
Okay, I could see that, but and I realize that our good friend Donald Trump was not supposed to win the 2016 election, throwing the disclosure plans into the entire garbage there. I mean, that's
If
just
that
kind of
was
what
really
happened.
going to happen, I mean, I'm not any more confident that Hillary's administration was actually ever going to do that. I think they were gaming, potential voters also. They would have, I mean, Jimmy Carter, Democrat, said he was going to spill the beans. He was going, and he gets in there, and nope, he clams up. So what happens is they get in there, and then they learn this is why you're not going to say a darned word about this. No matter what you said on the campaign trail, you got to be careful what people say on the campaign trail in American politics, as you probably know up there. It's because they'll say anything. They'll say anything to get elected. So I'm not confident that, I mean, how many times have we been told, oh, this is the disclosure president? This is the disclosure president. And it never is.
No.
That's, unfortunately, and they're doing that to people like you and your listeners. They're yanking chains, and they see it as for the greater good from their perspective.
3 minutes to go, 2 questions.
Mhm.
T-Bone is asking, what do you think about Chris Bledsoe?
A couple of things. Well, we got time for one of them. I think he's a guy who has probably had some legit strange experiences, or there's been some things projected at him that convinced him that they're real. And when you've got guys like Semivan and some of the others that are, took an interest in him, to me, that's a red flag in that I think they use this guy in things he believes. I think there's also a little bit of, hey, he's willing to take as much advantage of it as he can too. But I don't see that as a pure thing like some people do. It's murky.
All right. Well, final question. This one comes from Derek. If you had to take a chance, how far off is full global disclosure, Mr. Bosley? Could you give it a timeline?
I think I would guess, Dave, that you and I will see it in our lifetime. Okay. And why do I say that? Because we are starting to be even more present in space again. And they're not going to be able to hide these things that they've likely found on the moon and Mars for very much longer. I'm one of those who thinks they have already started teasing us with things on Mars that they let us see the images of, and they don't explain. They just don't say a word about it. I think when you have people like John Brandenburg, who's positing that this isotope that could only exist if there's a thermonuclear explosion like a bomb that exists on Mars, and you have increasingly more people saying, yeah, it looks like there might have been a war on Mars between civilizations long ago, and as these things build up, they're not going to be able to keep this from us for long. And bottom line is, when you start having a military branch where you're going to start sending personnel, okay, and they're not just limiting people in U.S. Space Force to doctorate level astronaut scientist type people, okay. Billy Bob from Oklahoma can join Space Force, and if he gets assigned, aboard a Space Force craft and goes up, in orbit or something, to the moon or whatever, eventually with a whole crew of 400 people in there, those are regular folks.
Walter Bosley, thank you
gonna
for
get out.
coming on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller and Robin Haynes with the Cryptid Q&A. My friend, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Entertaining as always. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to bring you on probably the week of the 12th or the week after. In May,
Okay.
just to get your perspective of everything, if you can just kind of keep that in mind.
Yes, I will. I'll put it on my board.
All right, buddy. We'll set a date when I get back from Vegas.
Okay. Have a good time, Dave.
All right, brother. You take
Thank
care.
you. All right. Bye.
Walter Bosley, everybody. He's one of the best. I love him. Be right back. All right. Let's get back in here. Hello, Robin. Hold on. Let's bring Robin in here.
Hey, you.
Hi, Robin Haynes.
Getting excited to see you.
I will be leaving my house at about 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning after the show tomorrow night.
Oh, wow. I will be in late Thursday because I've got some obligations I've got to take care of here. So normally I go in on Tuesday or Wednesday, but I'm going in later this time. But yeah, so I will be there. We are all set up. I just made arrangements for our speaker dinner afterwards. We're going to actually do it at the hotel and have a huge buffet for all of our speakers afterwards.
Nice.
So yeah, and William Lunsford is going to be joining us and speaking.
Good.
Oh, we're thrilled. We're just thrilled. So we're going to have fun.
Good. Good.
Yep.
All right. I want to say a big thank you to Richard, Mel WD40, T-Bone ×2, and Cosmic Joe for the great super chats tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very much. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? Well, we don't have any ugly swag there. You can look nice. We're going to be adding more soon to it. So let's get to it here. And here we go. All right. Hard to believe we're already in the final hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. But first, in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Well, let's take a look here. Warrico. Warrico is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. Hey Swamp Dweller, huge fan of your show. I listen to your episodes every night. They really help me fall asleep. Since I'm a fan of your show, I figured that I would share a story with you. So this story didn't happen to me, but to my older sister, who I will call Evie for privacy reasons. So this happened in December of 2020. My sister was in Japan for a year teaching English for 2019. She came back home in January 2020 and was going back to Japan in March to teach English for 3 years. But when COVID-19 hit, she was unable to do that and had to stay home and try to find work here in the US. One day, Evie decided to take her long-haired German Shepherd Sheba for a walk. Keep in mind, we live in a very rural area, but there are still houses around not too far from us. As she was walking, my sister was about to put her headphones in to listen to your podcast and was passing this new house that someone builds in, I think, December or something like that. We only met the guy once, and he seemed nice enough, but we don't normally talk to strangers. A lot of the times, the neighbors prefer to be left alone anyway. As she was passing the driveway of the house and was about to play your podcast, she heard someone running, like full-on sprinting towards her. She turns around and sees this heavy guy running down the driveway towards her. She began to walk faster and get past the driveway. She was ready to scream at the top of her lungs in case the guy was after her. After a minute of walking, Evie turns around and sees this guy standing at the edge of the driveway, just looking at her with his mouth half open. She later told me that there was no expression on his face. No anger, lust, just nothing at all. It was completely blank. She kept walking, looking forward. As she walked, she could see and feel that his eyes were on her. She turned to walk up this hill, and out of the corner of her eye she could see him watching her still. After a few more minutes of walking, Evie stopped and called our dad to pick her up. When they drove past the house, the guy was nowhere to be found. The weirdest thing about this story is that the guy isn't even the owner of the house. Oh, she had never even seen this guy before in her entire life, which just makes it even more scary thinking that this is just some random guy sitting on somebody's property, doing God knows what. So that's the story. I'm sorry if it's not long or even terribly scary, but I figured I would share it since I really love your show and I do plan to submit more stories. Thanks again, and if you decide to share this story, be safe out there, everyone. And not just from COVID, but from people who have ill intent on others.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another weird story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller, and make sure you hit subscribe, ring that bell. He's got thousands of stories there for you to listen to for free. It's time for Robin. Robin Haynes, we are just days away from the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, and you got me on a long, long day, my friend.
You know what? I am so sorry. I spent literally 2 days trying to find flights to get your happy butt to Nebraska. And that was the best I could find. And I thought, what in the world? You know, they canceled a lot of the flights that they have. So there's not as much to choose from. That was the best one I could find. And I thought, how do I even present this flight to Dave? I mean, first he goes through the bowels of hell to get there last time, and now we're going to repeat that same performance. I felt so
Oh,
bad.
I'm so excited. I'll be
Oh
honest
my
with you.
God, it was awful, Dave. I felt so bad. And I thought, other than to find a pterodactyl, put a saddle on it, and strap your happy butt on it, I don't know any other way to get you there. The
You know
flights are
what?
ridiculous.
Hey, I'm already checking the forecast, and there's no tornadoes in the forecast.
We'll wait till you get
Okay.
to, Hastings or Grand Island.
Yes.
Well,
So here's my thing. I will end the show tomorrow night, and then I'm going to debate whether or not I actually sleep or not. Okay.
I just feel so bad.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. I have to drive. Let's see, my flight out of Vancouver is at 11 in the morning. So I got to be there 3 hours before because I got to clear customs. Okay. And so that means I got to be there for 8, which means I'm going to have to leave here about 2:30 in the morning in order to get there.
Did you get the email I sent you? They
Yes.
sent about you have to register or something. I don't know. It's so crazy. I got that flight and I thought, I literally am going to have to go into the witness protection program after I send you this flight because it's so bad. But it was the only one I could get. And I tried and tried and tried. And I thought, God, the longer I wait, the worse it's looking. And
Yeah, I'll have to fill that out.
yeah, Blaine
So that,
Tyler's coming in. Him and his beautiful wife Lisa are coming as well. So they had to get, everybody's flights are wonky this year, and they canceled such a large portion. And we have Daniel Becker from the Cryptid Wilderness Research podcast coming, and he's coming from Alaska. You thought your flight was bad? He's going to be on there for so long. I think he'll have a full beard by the time he gets off that flight. I called him and I'm like, Daniel, what do you want me to do? Like, tell me, is there another airline, another way to get you here other than dog sled? And it was just a mess. It was so bad. I mean,
well,
mine isn't nearly as bad as yours. We're coming in late. Christian McLeod's coming in at 11 o'clock. My flight's coming in at 11 o'clock. Everybody's got these wonky times. I went over all of it with the hotel today. to make sure everybody's rooms are what they're supposed to be, and to give them the schedule for pickup. So we've got shuttles coming to get everybody at the airport, and the ones that the shuttles can't accommodate, we have people coming to get you.
I look forward to it.
I know it's going to be so great. I really am excited about it. We have one disappointment this year, and it's kind of heartbreaking, but we're going to persevere. Harriet McFeely, who is our heart and soul and owns and runs the conference, unfortunately has taken ill. She's going to be fine. It's just a virus, but she's not well enough to attend the conference. And so, you know, our heart is Harriet. She's what keeps us going, and we love her and cherish her. And so it's kind of bittersweet for us this year, but she wants us to carry on. And we'll be sending her lots of info, and she'll be back with a vengeance next year. So,
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm looking forward to it. So let's go to the conference. Who do you have for speakers outside of myself?
I'm going to try to remember everybody without my little notebook. We have you. Rob Kreider was going to be there. This has been the year of things going on. And unfortunately, due to a family emergency, he is not able to attend, but we have the wonderful William Lunsford, who will step in his place. And we love William. He did our conference before and was fabulous. Blaine and Lisa Tyler. We have Christian McLeod. We have Tim Baker, which is Coonbo. Thrilled to have him. And these are all on Saturday. And then we're going to have our first roundtable. Christian McLeod was the one that suggested it, so he gets the credit for it. And I think it'll go great, so we're going to do that. On Friday, we were supposed to have L.A. Marzulli, and unfortunately, he is not able to attend, but we were able to set it up so he will attend through Zoom call. So he's going to talk about the giants. He's going to talk about his books, the Peruvian skulls. He's not really going to do the Bigfoot topic. We've got him there for the giants. And so he's going to do that on Zoom. We have Daryl Denton. Thrilled Daryl's going to be there. Daniel Becker, which is Cryptid Wilderness. We have a surprise guest that will be there. MK Davis and Don Monroe were going to join us, but MK Davis is not feeling well. So we have a substitute that's going to come in for them. So that should be good. We have Christy Scambia, which she goes by Christy Sci-Fi, and her amazing dad, Warren. And so they are going to be talking to us as well. So I think I got everybody. I feel like I'm missing somebody. If I did, I apologize, but it's going to be really good. And we have a movie by David Ford that will be played on Friday night as well. Plus all of our beautiful vendors that support us every year and do so great. So we are really excited. Everything is on target. And just yesterday or today and tomorrow, I will have my nose to the grindstone and making sure everything is smooth. And getting all the wonderful speakers organized.
I love it. And I finally found my USB stick so I can download my
oh, wonderful. Now you can always, definitely bring it on the USB, but if you also want to forward it ahead of time, let me know and I'll give you the email to send it to.
Yeah, if you want to send me that after the show, that would be great.
Okay.
Now, we're talking Bigfoot all weekend long.
Yes.
All
Favorite
right.
topic.
Yes. And we want to give a shout out in our chat room to our guest tomorrow night, John Ramirez, former CIA agent who will be on the show talking UFOs. He's in our chat room. Thank you, John, for showing on up. We appreciate you so much, my friend. And let's get to Bigfoot here, because that's really why we bring you on, and that's where you're going. So I was actually talking to some people today. They, for the last 10 years, this couple, they do tree planting.
Okay.
And they have seen and come across all sorts of footprints. Never once have they come across a Sasquatch print. They're believers. They want to have that happen. Why do you think, if they're in the middle of the forest, going through and replanting all these trees, that they're not actually having any sort of clue that there's something out there?
It depends on the clan and how much activity you're going to get. If that clan is allowed, the leader allows it, or that individual is curious enough, you're going to have it. You know, I guarantee you, they're probably watching them plant all the trees because they're very much into nature, guarding the earth, and that type of thing. It just depends on the individual. There's really no certain key point to make them have contact. You know, if being that they're out there all the time, I would suggest talking to them. Seriously, just talk to them. And that piques their interest. When you tend to keep them on your brain all the time, it draws their interest because they're telepathic. You know, try the bonfire thing. But I guarantee you, they're probably watching them. You know, they
What
really
about
are.
what about hunters? I mean, I've talked to so many hunters in my area that literally have, been in the forest 25, 30, 40 years, going out in the forest, never an encounter.
Well, you know, it's funny because they pick and choose who they're going to deal with. They could be in an area that there's not any out there. They could be in an area where they won't even, take the kill from a hunter. And then you have other areas where it doesn't matter who comes out there. That particular individual is going to run to whatever you shoot, it's going to get to it before you do. It really and truly comes down to that individual and the location. I mean, you would be surprised. And it's like, and I was very blessed. I spent Easter with my best friend and his family. And at his mother's home, there are Sasquatch, a lot of them. And he has a niece and nephew that we go out and take out in the woods. And I don't want to give any names or locations or anything like that, but these are just some of the most beautiful people, beautiful hearts you've ever met. And we take them out and we talk to them about Sasquatch and how to interact with them and everything. And I got the most beautiful phone call today from them. These kids were outside and they actually got active communication with the Sasquatch through woodknocks. They would ask them questions and they would answer them in woodknocks. You know, they would say, "Are you this?" And, knock once if yes, twice for no, or will you knock 5 times? And they actually got that kind of interaction from these beautiful, beautiful children and their mother. I mean, they got interaction that 90% of the population of our planet would have killed for. Why? Who knows? But that group over there is tremendous. Like, I've gone out there, we've all gone out there and been walking around in the woods and got verbal communication from them where they would chant words to us. Why? Nobody knows. But that particular group and those individuals there, they're just really good. The ones I had in Michigan that would allow me to do anything with them, and I would go out and sit with all night long. It was the group. I come to South Carolina and yeah, I get a ton of activity. I'm not going to lie, I do. They're looking in the windows, tapping on the walls and, running around like little hooligans. But they don't do any of the stuff that my Michigan group did. And I haven't changed. I'm the same as I always was. It's the individual. And they determine what they feel comfortable with. And they read your intent, they read your mind, and you may be a good person, but maybe they don't think that you're going to be able to handle that interaction. You get interaction when they think you're ready, not when you think you're ready.
I get that, and I can appreciate that. But I mean, at some point, though, if you're a hunter say you've been hunting the last 10 years, 35 years, whatever it may be, you would think you would come across something with your exploration of the forest.
I agree. I really do. But it could be too, maybe you're not, maybe it's there. And these beings are so subtle, it's easy to miss. So maybe you're there, but for whatever reason, you're not getting it. I'm so sorry about the light, you guys. We're having problems with lighting over here.
It's okay. You're
Um,
doing great. You're doing great.
But, certain individuals are a certain way. And if with our people, we sometimes miss the subtle signs. Doesn't mean they're not there. But these individuals, are so subtle. Others are right up in your face. I mean, I've had some that, literally come out of the woods and stand out there in front of you like, okay, here I am. And then I have others that I know are following me around because I can hear them and I can't find them to save my soul. You know, if you don't know the subtle signs that would be them, how are you going to know? And Dave, you've been out in the woods. Everything is subtle. Unless they want you to stay out of an area or they are making a big play for your attention, it's not right up in your face. And I think a lot of people tend to think that that's what it would be. So like if you are a hunter and you're up in a tree stand, I know hunters that are like, I've looked down on the ground. I've not seen anything walking around. And I'm like, okay, did you check the trees? Because they're up in the trees every bit as much as they're down on the ground. These guys climb at an alarming rate, and I don't care how big they are. And they're like, no, I never thought to look off the ground. I'm looking down out of a tree stand to see if they're walking around, and they've missed it. You know, there's so many ways that they can be there. And if you don't know what to look for, you miss it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Let's get to a couple questions here. Let's go to Mike here, who is asking, have the Bigfoot ever said that they are going to Texas to visit you?
Honestly, yes. I have some of my core group that was in Michigan. The whole group did not come from Michigan to South Carolina. And I have asked that they come. And at first they were like, no, they were going to go back to Michigan. And now I've got some that are saying yes. And I have some that I work with in other states that have also said that they will come. So I would imagine, so I will be very surprised if they don't. Once you get any of them to bond with you, they very seldom are you left alone. Doesn't mean they'll stay with you all the time, but they will go back and forth. So I would say yes. And they actually have said yes, some of them that they will come.
How easy is it for somebody like you who's had communication to pick up a new clan?
Easy. Because I read energy and I read frequency, and everything has an energy signature. So for me, it's not hiding out because I pick it up when a new frequency comes in. That's like when they're cloaked, I still don't have a problem finding them because I read the frequencies and the energies. And energy doesn't lie. And everybody's energy is different. So it's, for me personally, it's very easy.
Very interesting. T-Bone wants to know, does Bigfoot inquire about your glasses?
Yes. I hate my glasses and I hate it. I've had them all my life. And they do, because like even when I'm sitting here, the light reflects off these glasses and it drives me crazy. And I hate it. And like when I film for different shows, it's a problem. And they notice it as well. And I've had them, that's a really good question, by the way. I've had them ask me about that. And I'll take them off and they'll kind of, cock the head back and forth. Like now they don't recognize me. Once they get used to it, then they're good with it.
Love it. Love it. What do Sasquatch find curious about us?
Well, they think that we're the most bizarre things. They're forever saying, that we're silly humans, or Kaluka, which means silly humans. And they don't know what to make of us. And they think that we do a lot of really stupid things. They don't understand our ways. The biggest thing that I've noticed about how they feel about us is they don't understand the hate. They don't understand how dark some people can be. They have no concept of why we have money. They think money is evil, which it is. But they don't understand the hate. And they don't understand why we don't work together as a whole. Like their culture goes through the collective consciousness. In our culture, people are coming around more and more and more to that. And we are getting a lot of people that are starting to raise their frequency and work through the collective. But we primarily don't. And they don't understand that. They don't understand
Robin,
why we destroy the earth.
and on that note, Robin, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here. It's our final break of the night. Robin Haynes of the Cryptid Report continues on Spaced Out.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping this hotel works for us because we were so displeased with the one last year. But it sounds really good. It's hard for me because I'm not in Nebraska. But I've had people that are there take a look at it, and it's supposed to be lovely. It's the Ramada Midtown Inn, and it's got a restaurant in it, a bar in it. It's supposed to have a miniature golf in it, pool, hot tub. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful, and they've been very nice to deal with and seem to be very accommodating. So we're really excited. For anybody that does go there, if you mention that you're there for the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, you do get a discounted room.
I'm looking at the photos right now.
I thought it looked good.
It's a nice pool area.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping, last year the hotel was lovely and we got there and we had problems. We had problems the entire time. So I'm really hoping that maybe we found one that we can continue to use.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice rooms.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really, like I said, I'm hopeful, and they seem to be very good when I've talked to them about accommodating our needs because, we aren't everybody's cup of tea, and we have certain things that are required. Like we need shuttles. We need various things. What I'm excited about too is they have a restaurant there. And so for our speaker dinner, rather than trying to get everybody moved all over the place, we can be right there and we're going to have a beautiful buffet. So very excited about that. I think it'll be much more accommodating for everybody, and then everybody can just hang out there and be comfortable and visit.
I think that's great.
Yeah. Yep. So
It is going to be fun.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sad I'm not going to be there as long as I normally am. Like I go in Tuesday or Wednesday, and then I stay the week after because I have the next year's conference set up before I go back home from Nebraska. And I've got too many obligations this year, so it's going to be a quicker trip. I'll be going the same Thursday as you and back on Sunday like you are. So if I can get out of there. This is the 5th year. In the first 4 year, every time I tried to get out, everybody made it out but me.
Well, I got delayed for 3 hours.
Oh God, multiple times. Okay, we didn't even think you were. By the time you got there, we thought we were going to have to get you at the airport and then just take you and turn you around to the gate to go back home. Oh, that was so bad, so bad. And then I went to go get your flight this time, and I'm like, good God, what in the world is it, like the curse or something? But everybody's flights were really janked up, and I didn't get flights till the end of the month and the first week in April because I've done it early before, and we still had problems. Last year, the airline canceled not everybody's flights, but a large portion of their flights, and I had to rebook at the last minute. The year before that, people canceled and got sick and couldn't come, and we had airline tickets out there we could never use again. There's no right and wrong way to do it. So I just wait till the end of March, first week in April, and book it that way when I know for sure everybody's coming.
I like it.
Yeah, we're going to have fun either way, no matter what goes on. Like I said, it's going to be kind of bittersweet because Harriet won't be there, but she will be there in spirit, and we will love and miss her and make sure it goes just as she wants it to, and she will be back next year with a vengeance. And she's going to be fine. It's not anything life-threatening or anything like that. Just not feeling well.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait. I'm pretty excited, to be blunt.
Yep, I am too. I always get excited. I've loved it every single year. I've been the assistant manager for it this is my 5th year, and I've loved every single year.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, and we've been doing really well with ticket sales. So I think we're going to have a good crowd, and we always get a ton at the door anyway. And I have had so many people contact me. Are you going to be there? Are you going to be there? I am not speaking this year. I did it for 4 years. I've done my time, but I will be around so I can talk to everybody. So that's a good thing.
Me too. I'm just going to be meandering this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll find a spot for you or a table or whatever you need, and you can sit
Nope.
and visit with everybody or just wander.
I'm wandering. That's all
Yeah,
I'm
I
doing
mean,
is wandering.
you know us, we're pretty low key. We just let everybody be who they are.
All right, we got 15 seconds. Big thank you to T-Bone times 2, John CS, Mel WD40, Cosmic Joe, and Richard for the super chats. Appreciate the love and support. I got your questions ready, and we'll be getting to those here momentarily, everybody. Power spaced out tonight. Reminder to all of you that if you miss most of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, our good friend Robin Haynes, the cryptid Q&A going on right now. Robin, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I love it. No place I'd rather be.
Start off with the unknown archive. Has any dead Bigfoot ever been found?
Yes, absolutely. Normally what happens, not with all, but with the large portion of it, is as soon as somebody finds it, the government takes it. Unfortunately. You know, I mean, we wish it was a different way, but that's kind of the way it goes. There aren't a lot. Okay. They bury their dead. They have funerals for their dead. They have days of silence. The ones that I've worked with, I've been told from them, and I've witnessed it, where if it's a regular clan member, they go to 3 days of silence. If it's an older one, an ancient one, an elder, clan leader, anybody of importance, they go 4 days of silence. So it's very difficult to find a dead one. You know, I mean, if you're in the woods and a bear dies, the decomposition rate's pretty heavy because of the moisture in the ground, so that goes quickly. With a Sasquatch, they do not give up their dead. There have been people that have found a dead body, absolutely. But a lot of, not all, but a lot of the time the government takes it.
All right, let's go to another question here. This one from Amanda. Robin, do you personally have Rh negative blood type? And have you heard anything about it and have a connection with the supernatural?
I do not have Rh negative. I have O positive. O positive as well as O negative are a universal blood type, which would probably explain the problem. It's not a problem, but why I get a lot of ETs. You know, I've had tests run on me. I've been told they want my DNA. I've had the fetal implants done. I've had all that. But I do not have Rh negative. Now, I, like everybody else, have heard that Rh negative, you know, is something that is very much associated with the paranormal. I'm not going to say that it isn't. I don't have it, but I have always heard that it is. However, I deal with the paranormal 24 hours a day, 8 days a week, and I am O positive. So, but again, my blood type is a universal blood type, and so is O negative.
Yeah.
And I was told that they use that when they are creating hybrids, because they can use that and cross it with the cows and do all kinds of things with it, because it is that universal blood type. So they do use it for that.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer with what you're saying too, because I'm a O positive as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're like getting to the Rh negative type. I think that was a theory that, and this is no offense to our question from our audience in Amanda here, but I really think that that was an overblown conspiracy
I
theory
agree.
about
I
the
agree.
Rh negative.
Yeah. I mean, I think that might be another blood type that they're very active with, but I don't think it's as big of a thing as what has been broadcasted. I don't know a lot about, the pros and cons to the Rh negative, but I'm with you. I'm an O positive, and they haven't had any problem taking my blood. They've
Yeah.
crossed it with God only knows what. Like I said, I've had 3 fetal implants. The one I lost right away, and the other 2, they took at 3 months and at 5 months.
Let's go to Mike. Do Bigfoot know how to make fire? If so,
Absolutely.
do they cook fish or meat on it?
Yeah, absolutely. That is dictated by the clan and what the leader will allow. Some clans will use fire, some will not. The ones in Michigan are very well adapted to fire. I'm not going to speak for every clan, but the ones I've talked to all know how to make fire. And, some of the ones from down south, not so much. We had a female that came from Florida and partnered up with one of the males that were in my clan that I was working with. Not my clan, but the clan I was working with. And she knew nothing about fire. And when they got together, she about froze. And so he had to teach her how to make fire. But they actually do. They use older pieces of wood so they don't smoke. And they will cook some of their food on it. In fact, I had several members of the clan that would frequent my property that were like, we're very civilized. We cook our meat. And I was like, okay, sorry. I was just asking a question. So yeah, some of them actually do, not only for cooking, but for heat.
All right.
And actually to make some medicines as well.
Let's move on to another question from our audience. Let us go over to Jerry. Does Sasquatch have more respect for First Nations people in their areas?
Some of them, yes, they actually do. They get along very well with them. There are some Native Americans in different areas, and I wish I could be more specific. I knew them years ago, and I don't remember that they actually fought very vehemently with. They would steal each other's children. They would terrorize each other. But for the most part, it's very peaceful with the Native Americans. But if you really think about it, Native Americans are very much people of the land. They treasure our land. They don't do what a lot of the white men have done to the land. And we have done a lot of damage to the First Nations tribes. And they seem to be very relaxed in their company. They've learned a lot of their ways. Certain ones that are in different, like if you have some that are in the Cherokee First Nations area, they tend to learn a lot of the Cherokee ways. Or in Michigan, where I was at, that was Ojibwe land. My son actually works for the Musqueam First Nations in Canada. And while I never ask him Sasquatch questions because I don't want to put him in that position, I did ask him at one time, I said, did they get along pretty well? And he said, we aren't allowed to talk a lot about it, but from what I know, yes. But I asked him to find out what First Nations tribe were in the area, because he does archival work where I was at, and it was Ojibwe. And when I started looking up on the internet things having to do with the ways of the Ojibwe, it really correlated with the clan that I was working with.
Let's go over to Blue Cruise. What is the average lifespan of an adult Sasquatch?
For the ones that use their paranormal abilities, it's roughly 400 to 500 years, although we have ancient ones that go 900 years on up. If they are not using the abilities and they are staying more in flesh and blood, then they would have the lifespan similar to ours, which I would say anywhere from 70 to 80 years old. The reason being the higher frequency that they would get using the paranormal abilities and going through the portals. Frequency, and people are finding this out more and more, frequency kills diseases and it heals. When I do healing work on Sasquatch and other cryptids as well as ETs, I do it using frequency. We have frequency beds now out that we've created for people, and they help heal. The cryptids as well as the ETs use frequency to heal. So as they're traveling and using the portals and they're using their abilities and they're using that higher frequency, it does give them a much longer lifespan.
All right. Let's go over to the unknown. Just learning about Bigfoot. Does Bigfoot communicate through infrasound like elephants or telepathically?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're excellent at it, but they all are capable of it. Even the ones that don't use a lot of paranormal abilities still use the telepathy. They are higher frequency beings, even if they work more in the flesh and blood, if that clan does. So they absolutely use it 100%. And they work through the collective consciousness. So, like, if you're out in the woods and there's one around you, and let's say you had some kind of malicious intent, be prepared for the rest of them, because they are all connected through the collective consciousness. And you try to take down one and you get everybody. There's never just one, because they are so interconnected through the telepathy, through the consciousness, that they call on the rest of them in a heartbeat.
Amanda wants to know, does Sasquatch mark people, like keep an eye on certain people or follow them home?
Oh, yes, absolutely. They do. For various reasons. I've got some that follow me all over. I have one that I talk to, and he can find if I'm having a bad day, if someone's been mean to me, if I've stubbed my toe. I absolutely hear from him, and he knows it without me ever telling him. I get watched a lot. I have some that are guards that are outside. I have some that just follow me for the sake of following me. Doesn't matter where I go, what I do. They know how to find me. Yes. It's not always that they mark you for bad. People need to know that. If there isn't one that's aggressive, or if you've hurt them in some way, can they mark you for bad? Yes, they can. But for the most part, when what they call are marked, it's just because they like you. Just like a stray dog that's going to follow you around, only these are a people, these aren't an animal. But they will absolutely follow you and keep track of you.
All right, let's move over to Leecham. A month or so ago, you mentioned how the clans were scared of the dragons, reptilians
Yeah.
coming from underground. Are these purely reptilians or the old dragons of lore? Also, what are these dragons like?
First off, the reptilians, we need to be clear that there are good and bad. I would never want anybody to presume that all the reptilians are bad, because there's some that are very kind. The one that was in my backyard never showed any sign of aggression or caused any problems. And I know of a lot of people that have interacted with reptilians that are very good. That aside, we have dragons that come from Sirius A and Sirius B, as well as underground. The ones that are underground, according to Sasquatch, okay, this is not according to me, but from the Sasquatch that I've talked to, and I have not asked every single one this question, but the ones I have, the ones that are underground, they call them the sleeping dragons. And they are highly aggressive, and they will, when they wake up and come above ground, they will hunt and try to kill the Sasquatch, and they're terrified of them. Now, are those the dragons of lore? I couldn't tell you that. I really can't. I think that, we have a lot of different kinds. I think people over the centuries, we hear a lot of rumors or gossip or whatever. And there are some that are highly aggressive and highly dangerous to us, as well as the cryptids. But we also have a lot of them that are actually good. And I think it goes back to there's good and bad in everything, and there are some that are helpful. I know people that work with them and say that they are truly wonderful. I've talked to some that were good, but the ones that the Sasquatch are concerned with are the ones that come from underground, and they say they lay and they sleep. And when they come out, as they did back on April 8th of last year, not this past April 8th, the one before, it was pretty scary for them. It was a dangerous time.
Let's go back to the unknown. Says, sorry about asking so many questions. No, that's what this is here for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ask away. Ask away. Could Bigfoot be time travelers slipping through tears in reality?
Honestly, I believe absolutely. I really do, because these portals are going through many dimensions. And we know that our world is made of many planes. It's like a matrix. We have hundreds of planes. What we're doing here tonight in planes behind us hasn't happened yet. In planes before us has already happened. And the Sasquatch people are going through the portals. They're going to different dimensions. They're going through different planes. We have confirmation that some of them talk about going to the plane that Jesus is on and washing the feet of Jesus. So, I absolutely believe that they can time travel. We time travel. If you go back and you're really careful and you find it, there is things on the internet about the government time travel. And there was actually, I'm so sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but it was from back like in the 40s. And he took his son and did time travel. And then after the dad died, the son came forward and said, I remember my dad taking me back to meet, I think it was Ben Franklin. And the Sasquatch are no different, but they're going through the portals, and those portals go to every dimension and every plane. So in my own opinion, yes, I think they absolutely can.
I think that's great. Let's move on to another question here. Let us go to Blue Cruise. Actually, let's go to Amanda first. Does Sasquatch get along with the Dogman?
This is such a debated thing. A lot of people say, oh, no, they won't share territory with them. I beg to differ. I think just like some people don't want neighbors around, the same thing goes with the Sasquatch and the Dogman. I know there are some areas that they refuse to share territories. However, I've had both at my home my entire life. I can give you name over name over name over name of people that have both on their property, and they do not fight. Are they going to sit around the campfire and have dinner together or invite each other for lunch? No. But they coexist rather peacefully. They ignore each other. They do their own thing. Now, in the clan that I had at my home in Michigan before I moved here, we actually had a dogman that was there's 3 of them that hung around with the Sasquatch. And I actually have a photograph of a female that is a hybrid from a Sasquatch female and a dogman male. So, and she has what looks like a teddy bear face. She is not a gugly. She is a hybrid. She has the body of a Sasquatch. She has a very long tail like a dogman. And she has short little perked up ears and a beautiful snout, and her face is 100% hair. So she has more like of a dog head, but she is a hybrid.
Let's go to another one. Let's go to Blue Cruise. If an adult Sasquatch grabs a human from behind by the neck and pushes their face into a tree bark, are they communicating to that individual that it's their territory, leave now, and don't come back?
I would think that they're communicating a lot with them, that they are not wanted there for any reason, shape, or form. I mean, very rarely, not that it couldn't happen, is it that they are going to grab like that. But if you are that close, especially, God forbid, you're that close to their kids, they will do that in a heartbeat. And they're world famous for grabbing you by the shoulders and doing the whole headbutt thing. And because the bone structure on their head is so thick, they can cave your skull in a minute. But I would think, if that's what happened and somebody had them grab them and push them into the tree like that, they don't want you there. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It could be you're in their territory. It could be their children are out. More than likely, something that severe would be because you're by their children. I think if you're in their territory, they're going to scream, they're going to yell, they're going to stomp their feet and try to run you out that way. But if they're getting to the point where it's now physical, there's other things that they would cause them to, but they probably chances are their kids are there. That's when people seem to end up with the most problems, is they are either doing something that you are absolutely not allowed to be there present for, or their children are there.
Jerry would like to know, as we got 2.5 minutes left, are there any incidents where a single Bigfoot tried to break away from a group and do their own thing?
Absolutely. The other thing about that is if they break the laws and they're in their clan, they can be ostracized and kicked out. And this is just kind of a funny little story, although it is 100% true. There was one that actually got kicked out of the clan because they were living in a cave system. He kept peeing in the cave, and they kept telling him to quit peeing in the cave. And he kept doing it anyway, and he got removed from the entire clan. And like 4 years later, he contacted me, and he still wasn't allowed back. And I said, I just thought it was funny when they had said it. And he said, no, he said, I never could go back. They wouldn't let me go back. But yeah, they can move away from the clan. They can choose to live on their own. There's a lot of them that will do that and just would rather live by themselves. But yeah, they absolutely can do that.
All right. Next one here. FAP wants to know, how big are the underground reptilians the Bigfoot are worried about?
The only reptilians I know about are like somewhere between 8 to 10 feet. There is another group that's bigger that can go 12 to 14. As far as underground reptilians, they tend to stay away from the Sasquatch unless they are really forced to be like on top of each other. As far as that goes, I don't think it's the size that concerns the Sasquatch. I think it's the intent of the ones that are causing the issues and the problems. I mean, you're talking Sasquatch get big. There's not a lot that they're really afraid of. And so if this is really a bad reptilian, it's not going to matter if it's 4 foot or 14 foot. They are not going to want them around, and they're not going to let them near the clan at all.
Robin, we got about 45, 50 seconds left with you tonight. Do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can get last minute tickets for Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, and tell us where we can find you.
Okay, you can go online to the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference 2025. You can purchase your tickets online. We do sell at the door, but it's discounted online. So you can go there. You can find me under Robin Haynes, no middle initial, Haynes, on Facebook or on my website, www.paranormal-empowerment.com.
You are so good with that. You don't even miss a beat.
Done it a couple times.
Well, that's good. That's good. Robin, it is always a pleasure. I cannot wait to see you
I
in just a
know.
few days at the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference. It's going to be so much fun.
I know. I can't wait for a hug. I cannot wait to see
I'll
you.
give you a hug.
Oh, yeah. And if you need anything, Dave, you've got my number. All you got to do is call.
I just want to ride.
Yeah.
I know you're out there somewhere. This is the urgent time. It's
Limited. Thank you so much
for you to great.
with us.
Stay
Us
tight,
together,
don't
my
make a
friends.
mistake. We're watching.
Yes, we'll train. That's not my friends. Want to bring a friend? Great job, Robin.
Thank you, sweetheart. And you call me if you need anything at all.
I'm just hoping that I will be there.
Oh my gosh, I am too.
Hey, do they have DoorDash or Uber Eats there?
I would think so, but we'll have people that have vehicles if you need anything. And there is a restaurant in the building as well, and
Yeah.
right around that. But if you need anything, all you have to do is tell me. And Forrest is going to have a car there. I may rent a car, but when I talked to Forrest today, he said you don't really have to because I've got one, and then Christy has one as well. So we've got people covered if we need to run and grab food.
All right. I just said I'm getting in at like 10:48.
Do you
PM
know
or
what I
something like
can do if when you are at your stop before that, you're coming in at 10:48 on Thursday, correct?
that? Yes.
That's the same time I'm coming in.
Okay, are we on this? Are you flying in from Dallas?
Yeah. So's
Oh, then
Christian.
we'll be on the
Well,
same flight then.
yeah. So when we either get picked up or shuttled, we'll get somebody with a car and we'll go grab food because we're going to be starving.
Oh yeah, we're gonna need some serious Taco Bell.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Mexican pizza. Here I come.
Oh yeah.
I love it. They
Oh
hate it when
yeah.
I order it because I want nothing on it. I just want extra meat, extra cheese, and light sauce and keep the rest of the crap off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they hate it when they see me coming, but man, I can mouth those Mexican pizzas like nobody's business. So we will definitely be getting some food because we're going to need it when we get there.
Well, what time do you get into Dallas?
Would have to look at it. I can't remember, but I know I go. Christian's coming from where he lives. I'm coming from somewhere else, but I know we're all supposed to hit Dallas right around the same time.
This
And
is getting better and better,
I
man.
know. So we're going to be playing around in Dallas, and then I don't know who else. There might be somebody else too that's going to. But yeah, Christian's on the same flight from Dallas to Grand Island that I am. We're not on the same flights to get there. And then now you're there. We're gonna have a blast. I don't even know where I'm sitting because they didn't show any of the seats lit up where I can pick. So I just put down no preference. So God only knows where they'll stick me. I could be out on a wing for all I know. So yeah, we'll have fun, but we'll make sure we get some food or something. If I have to, Forrest is coming in on Wednesday. So if nothing else, worst case scenario, I will ask him to please go grab pizza or something for us. So we've got food of some kind when we get back to the room.
Yeah, we'll need some Taco Bell.
Yeah, well, if Taco Bell's up, we'll grab that because we got microwaves in the room.
Yeah.
So, and if they're going to be open, I will check the times. If they're going to still be open, like it's a 24-hour, then we can get it fresh.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Paramarv says there's a Taco Bell a quarter mile away from the hotel.
Oh, you are awesome. We love you.
Paramarv,
Thank you.
can you find out what time that Taco Bell is open till? Appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, we would love to see you come to the conference. Come to the conference. Be with us. We have so much fun. But yeah, I'm excited. I am. It's going to be a quick trip, which I'm not used to that, but it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see everybody. It's like I look forward to it all year round. And we've got some people that bring their kids every year, and I've gotten to where I know these kids, and it's so fun because they'll come up to me and they want to ask all the Sasquatch questions, and I just love it. Absolutely love it.
I'm so stoked.
I know, me too. It's going to be fun. We just, I've had a lot of our speakers will come back and they're like, we have fun at conferences, but not like we do here. We're pretty laid back, but everybody is so good and we all get along so well. So it works out really, really lovely. But I mean it, if you need anything, do not hesitate to get hold of me.
Well, if we're going to be on the same flight, then I don't need to get a hold of you. Just get a hold of me at the airport.
No, but I mean, if you need anything, get a hold of me. Yeah, I think I don't even go in. I think my flight leaves here at like 4:45 or something like that. I mean, I've got a later in the day flight. I don't know what I know what time Christians leaves, but I'd have to look in my book because I've got it all charted out on times for everybody. But I know mine from South Carolina is right around 4:45, 5 o'clock. And then I head to Dallas. I can't remember I think it's a 2-hour flight or something like that. So
yeah,
between 6 and 7.
Yeah. Well, Taco Bell closes at midnight. So the minute I hit that airport,
totally.
man,
Yeah.
like when we're driving to the hotel, I'm calling Uber Eats.
Yeah, well, we may not even have to do that because depending on who picks us up, we might just go directly there. And you've been in that airport in Grand Island. It's like the size of a public restroom. So
But
it's
yeah,
like it's so tiny. We aren't going to have to go far to grab our luggage and get the hell out and go to Taco Bell.
you got that right.
So it'll be awesome. We'll make plans. So I will see you there, my friend.
I will see you soon, my friend.
Okay, love ya. Bye.
Love you too. Bye bye. Robin Haynes, everybody. Rose Demarais with the great picture saying he needs Taco Bell. Yes, he does. Thank you, Rose, for noticing. Amanda, you're going to come to Vegas, to the Vegas party? Yep, you're going to come to the Vegas party. I mean, since you live in Vegas, you might as well join us. Candy Wolf, how are you? That's all I need there, my good friend. That's all I need. Some good, wholesome GNR, Taco Bell, and a good hockey game on the telly. I'm a simple man that way. I thought you said you lived near Nellis, Amanda. Or was that somebody else? Said you lived near Nellis. Paradise City. That's right, Dead Fish. Greatest song ever. Ever. Rose, you should just say screw it and join us. Just do it. Just do it. Rose, if you show up in Vegas, Tim Mothman and his goatee will allow you 2 tugs on his goatee, not just one for the rest of us. 2 tugs. Be spontaneous, Rose. Be spontaneous. It would be 100 years of good luck. That's right, Rose Demarais. Totally do that, Moody Mongol. Mm-hmm. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Mm-hmm. Do, 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 do. I'm tired tonight. God, the thought of not sleeping. That's actually kind of exciting. Christine Land will be in Vegas. No, Greer's not invited. big question is, do I sleep before the end of tomorrow night's show or after the end of tomorrow night's show? Get like an hour? Do I deserve an hour? No, I didn't invite anybody, man. Nobody's invited. Just everybody can come. Totally going in with group 3, Tim. Not even messing around with that. Any questions, anybody? Fun watching me edit, right? Tomorrow night on the show, John Ramirez will be here. Dave, when will you be a guest on Sandy Diva's show? I don't know. I've never been asked. I heard that there was somebody, one of their fans in there ripping me a new asshole the other day, though. I'd do her show. Got nothing to hide. I don't know. I don't know who it was. Ever Josh, how are you? Yeah, if she ever asked me, I would likely do it. It'd have to be a weekend. Cut that off, damn it. It's a tough question there, Blue Cruise. Very tough question. I'd probably do a franchise. All right, everybody. I'm going to call it the night here, but thank you very much to T-Bone ×2, Mel WD40, Richard, John CS, and Cosmic Joe for the great super chats. Tomorrow night on the show, John Ramirez will join us to talk more about the CIA adventures into ufology. We'll see what's happening there, and we will talk with you guys tomorrow night. If you're new, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Trying to get to 28,000 here very quickly. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.